Everyone, could we please call the meeting to order? This is a meeting of the regularly scheduled City Council meeting, October 7th. Could we all please rise? Begin the meeting with the prayer. Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. You all please salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Counsel Mercia.
Here.
Counsel Milanazzo. Here. Counsel Rourke. Here. Counsel Samaras.
Here.
Counsel Belanger.
Here.
Mayor Elliott.
Here.
Counsel Kennedy.
Here.
Counsel Leahy.
Here.
Counsel Martin.
Here.
9 present.
Well, welcome members of the school committee, as well as ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, this is a regularly scheduled meeting, but we also have a special meeting that we will adjourn to for the election of a member to fill the vacancy at the Greater Lowell Vocational Technical High School. Before we do that, if there's no objection, I'd entertain a motion to suspend the rules to have 2 members from our Lowell Disability Commission. They have an exciting announcement that they would like to make this evening. In fact, it's going to start this evening, and I can't say much more because I'll spoil the announcement, but I entertain a motion by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Milanazzo, that we suspend the rules and to allow Mr. Jeff Wilson and Mr. Ron Lastman. We have a chairman and vice chairman of the Lowell Disability Commission who are joining us this evening. Welcome to Council Chambers again, Mr. Wilson. All those in favor of suspending the motion to allow gentlemen to speak signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. With that, Mr. Wilson, we know you have some exciting news, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, members of the council and Mr. Manager. Thank you for allowing me to speak. This evening I'm here to announce to the public and to the City Council that the Commission on Disabilities has reached a rather significant milestone, and we are going to commence closed captioning of City Council meetings on LTC Channel 99. This has been a project that has been in the works for approximately 6 years, and it has finally culminated into this evening. I want to thank a few people who have helped get this off the ground. The person who began this whole project way before I came on, Ron Lastman. He's the vice chair of the commission now. Some other folks who are not present at this time, Bill Mellon, former Commissioner Cheryl Quinto, Commissioner Dave Ellingson, Commissioner Providencia De Leon, and Mayor Elliott. He sat through a few of these meetings. And am I forgetting anyone else? I don't think so. And also former Commissioner Gail Bartlett. She was in at the onset of this. So a significant accomplishment over the years, and it was quite a haul, but we're finally there. Also want to thank members of LTC staff, Jessica Wilson and Mark Ducey also worked on this project. And most of all, I'd like to thank Eric Sack, who dedicated countless hours working with people all across the country to get this technical work done to get the closed captioning, and that's Eric Sack. He is the director of technologistics, I guess is what they call it. So anyway, I just wanted to thank everybody and let you know that this is going on for every council meeting from now until next October. The commission has funded the first year of closed captioning, and members of the deaf community will be seeking sponsorship to fund subsequent years of closed captioning, but we just figured that we would fund the first year, and we also purchased the equipment for LTC just to help get this project off the ground, and it's finally here. So a major, major accomplishment. I'm very proud to work with everybody to pull this off, and I couldn't be any happier. So I also wanted to cover some basic ground rules. You really don't have to do anything different as a council. The only thing that I ask is that you pay attention to microphone etiquette. You know, those of you who like to, you know, address people and you know, look at the party that you're speaking with, you might want to take the mic and put it in your hand, because when you look away, you don't get the audio. And if the audio is not coming through to the caption center, which is in Colorado, then they don't get to caption it. So they only have an audio feed. They don't get the video. So that's excuse me, that's critical. And also, you know, clear pronunciation of words always helps. There's going to be some, probably a lot of spelling mistakes in the beginning, and we're working on smoothing that out as well. So this is a fantastic accomplishment. We're one of a very few local access cable channels to provide this service to the community, and I'm happy to announce this evening. Thank you all for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. On behalf of the council, members of the school committee, and the people in the city of Lowell, we appreciate all the hard work you and the commission put in on behalf of the disability people in the community. I know that I've sat through 2 years of meetings and knew how important this was to you and your members, and it's a great day to finally see the closed caption that will benefit so many people, so many residents in the city, to be able to now participate in city council meetings and understand exactly what's going on. So we'll be cognizant of make sure we speak into our microphones and to make sure our message is getting across. But we thank you and members of the committee for all your hard work. 6 years is a long time. You stuck with it, and I was just happy to be a small part of it. So best of luck. Council Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I, too, want to thank the members of the Disability Commission for their, first, for their patience on this and their diligence and perseverance. I'm one of the council appointees to the LTC board, and I particularly want to acknowledge the efforts of Jessica Wilson, the executive director. She inherited this when she came to LTC, and she has now moved on. She's left earlier this month, and so we are going to undertake a new search for an executive director at LTC. Mark Ducey, who was mentioned, is the interim executive director, but Jessica did see this project through to fruition and completion, and it really wasn't a funding issue. I know the council's been very supportive of this, but it was very challenging to integrate the LTC equipment with the Comcast feed, and it seemed like every time there was progress, there was a setback, so it was very much, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But Jessica did, among all the other good things she did at LTC, did see this project through to completion. The commission has been very patient, and so I appreciate that. I'm sure all members of the council do. I know it's a benefit to their members, and I know personally Bill Mellon, who was mentioned, is somebody I played basketball with in high school. So it was good that we had the commission to push and not give up on this, and I thank them for their efforts, and I'm glad to see that we finally have accomplished this. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Council. I agree. Further discussion? Again, thank you for coming tonight. Congratulations, and I'm sure we'll continue to work with you and the commission on this and other issues. Great.
Thank you.
So moving on, if we can, I'll entertain a motion to recess from this regularly scheduled meeting by Council Samaras, second by Council Rourke. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries, and I'll entertain a motion. So now we will open up the special meeting. The special meeting notice was posted, and I will read the notice. Special meeting notice is hereby given as required by Rule 6 of the City of Lowell. City Council rules that the Lowell City Council will hold a special meeting of the Lowell City Council jointly with the Lowell School Committee in its council chambers on Tuesday, October 7th, 2014 at 6:30 p.m. or thereafter, for the purpose of interviewing and the selection of a candidate to a position on the Greater Lowell Technical High School Committee. Can the clerk please call the roll?
Counsel Milonazo. Counsel Rourke.
Here.
Counsel Samaras.
Here.
Counsel Belanger.
Here.
Mayor Elliott.
Here.
Counsel Kennedy.
Here.
Counsel Leahy.
Here.
Counsel Martin.
Here.
Counsel Mercier.
Here.
Miss Martin.
Here.
Miss Rosikowicz.
Here.
Miss Scott.
Here.
Mr. Conway.
Here.
Mayor, Mr. Gendron.
Here.
Mr. Leary.
Here.
All present.
I don't get 2 votes.
And I.
15 present. As I mentioned, the intent and the purpose of this meeting is for the interviewing and selection of a candidate to a position for the Greater Lowell vote. If we could, to the 2 candidates that are here, as I mentioned earlier, we'd invite you to come up and make an opening statement. And following the statement, typically there could be a round of questions. And following that, we'll invite the next candidate up to to go through the same procedure. Questions from members? No? Shall we proceed? Get by alphabetical order. Mr. Gitchia, Lee Gitchia, if you would like to come, you're welcome to come into the well and have a seat at the table, at the big table. Once you're situated, I will get you some water, and then we'll invite you to make an opening statement. And then after opening statement, how will we proceed, Mr. Clerk, with, I guess it doesn't matter, we want to start with Mr. Gendron. We'll just go down the line with questions if there's no objection from the members, or do we want to go by alphabetical order?
You can go down the line.
Okay, is that okay with members? We'll just ask questions. Mr. Gendron, we'll begin with you. So with that, Mr. Kitchia.
First, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Mr. Mayor Elliott, the City Council, and the School Committee for the opportunity to be selected for the opening, appointed for the opening of the Greater Lowell School Committee. My name's Lee Gitchia. I grew up in the city of Lowell. I was born and raised here. I grew up in the Highlands section of the city. I still reside in the Highlands. I have 2 children. I have a beautiful daughter, Brienne, who's 18. She's a senior in high school at the Lowell High. I have a 14-year-old son named Justin, who's in 8th grade at the Wang. I'm proud to say the other day it told me he's looking at Greater Lowell to go to high school. My father, Bob, was a teacher at Greater Lawrence for over 30 years. So you can see the vocational background. It's been instilled in me. I have 2 brothers, which I am the oldest of. 2 of us went to Greater Lowell. I graduated Greater Lowell in 1987. I took electronics at Greater Lowell. It's a trade, obviously. I'm still employed. I'm employed by Verizon in that trade. Every day I use that trade in my job. I've been employed by Verizon for 18 years. I'm a member of the union. I was in the union hall for 6 years, where I was elected for the E-board for 3 years. And I was also a treasurer for the union for 2 years. I'll open it up for any questions.
Shall I begin? Thank you, Mr. Gitchia, for coming down and your interest in this position. I'm
We currently have a situation at Lowell High School. We have a real shortage of vocational and technical facilities and programs. Yet there's a waiting list right now of Lowell kids at Greater Lowell Voc of over 100 potential students. Is there anything you can do, or do you have any ideas about how that gap might be addressed? Because right now there's a gap for young people in Lowell who wish to study in a vocational environment but can't do it because they can't get into school.
No, I agree with you that there's a definite problem. I think everybody should have the opportunity, every child should have the opportunity for vocational education if it's possible. I think it's possible. There's a couple ways we could do this. I mean, a couple of years ago, the waiting list was 300. It's down to 100. There was one trade, the medical trade, where there was a waiting list. The school committee looked at it, hired another teacher. What that did was free other spots for other children in other trades. That's one solution. There's another solution where, looking over, the budget, the past meetings, school committee member Fred Bahu, made a motion to work with the Lowell School Department, the Lowell School Committee, on the exact same problem. Well, I think that's all well and good. I think that's great. That's progress. But if I'm appointed, I think we should get the superintendents involved. That's where the dollar's going to stop. I mean, that's where it's going to have to come from. I mean, there are trade programs at Lowell High School, which I support. I think that's great. I think both schools need to come together and work to get this waiting list, as they have now, from 300 to 100. And I think we can get it to 0 eventually. I mean, there's going to be a lot of work. There's going to be a lot of decisions to make. And I mean, I think everything's trending the right way. And I want to continue to be part of that.
Thank you.
No questions, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank you for applying for this particular position. I congratulate you for that. I have no questions at this time.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions either. You and I met privately, and so I asked my questions then. I do want to thank you for your interest, though, and I appreciate that it's not always the easiest thing to jump into the arena, as you have done, and so I appreciate that, and I think you should be commended for that. Good luck.
Thanks, Council. Thanks for taking the time to meet with me.
I also want to thank you for putting your name out there and coming down. To follow up on Committeeman Gendron's question, any possibilities of night programs for students to come over and maybe they may not be able to get the academic portion in right away, but maybe they could introduce them to the trades, and then maybe we could.
I'm glad you brought that up, because when I was at Greater Lowell, our wrestling team, we used to have joint practices with Lowell High, and this is very doable. And I've talked to a couple of years about this, and again, it has to start at the top, but I think this is very doable. At the high school, when we were at Greater Lowell, we went to wrestle practice with Lowell High multiple times. We'd get on the bus, get dropped off at Moody Street, go in, wrestle, take the city bus home. Well, there's a city bus that goes right to Tingsboro, right to Greater Lowell, and I think that could happen in reverse, because at the end of the sports program, there's buses there to drop the kids off in their neighborhoods. I don't see the problem why it can't be used the other way. Yeah, it's something that'll have to be looked at, something that should be looked at. Maybe it was looked at by the committee. Maybe it was the wrong time. But I agree, something absolutely has to be done to give every child the opportunity for vocational education. I mean, I'm living proof that, I'm still in my trade, I'm still doing it. And I mean, I love what I do. And I think every child out there, every kid should have that opportunity.
Sure, I agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. I just quickly, and I appreciate your comments regarding the working collaboratively with the Lowell Public Schools. Really, the only question I have is, what are your 3 top priorities if you are selected as to be a Greater Lowell Technical School Committee member?
Well, from what I'm reading, the top priority would be, one of them would be the MCAS, doing the 30%. It's going great. The last 2 years, they've made gains. In the budget this year, they hired a core math teacher to continue on with those gains. I think that's great, but you're in the 30%. There's still 70% decline. And I think we're making strides out there. I think it's great. We obviously have to set a goal and reach it. And I think that's would be the main. The second would be to prepare these kids for the working world. When you come from grade or Lowell, it's college, working world. Working world or college. And I think they do a great job out there. I do. I think they do a great job with the trades, and that would be my second thing, would get them to be prepared, the children to be prepared for a job in their trade. That's a couple other things.
Hello, Mr. Gitchair. I have a similar question, and if you've already answered it, it's easy enough to say one of those answers you just gave. But it's a little different. I would say, what do you view as the biggest challenge at Greater Lowell, and what would you do, or what are your plans to address that challenge?
Well, one of the biggest challenges I've seen out there would be the fixed costs. I mean, the fixed costs are rising out there, and the state funding's not coming in to cover it. So the money has to come from somewhere, and we have to lobby the state a little harder to get that money. That's another challenge out there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, at this point, when you're number 9, most of the questions were asked, and Councilor Martin just asked my question, what are some of the challenges? You foresee any other challenges out at the Voc? I mean, I know we just spent $65 million. There's a great renovation project. You talked about MCAS. Well, let me ask, what would be your first priority if you were to be elected? What would be the first?
The first priority is seeing the $65 million out there for an addition to make sure it's done on time. Mm-hmm. That would be, and it is being, it's ahead of date from what I've read. And I mean, you just keep on it and make sure it's done on time. That would be another challenge out there.
What are the top 3 fields that are most desirable at the Voc? Would you happen to know?
Well,
I know cosmetology is always full.
Yeah.
I know maybe culinary.
Cosmetology is always full. That starts at your senior year. I mean, you have HVAC, plumbing, electrical. I mean, we're always going to need heating and air conditioning. You're always going to need a plumber.
So following up on what Mr. Gendron said, there's a wait list. We have students that want to get in. There's more of a need. Population does grow somewhat. We have, there's a need for kids from Lowell to be able to go to the Voc. Yet, we're kind of in limbo. Is there any way to expand that, to reduce that list and expand the number of kids?
I think there is. On the trade side, absolutely. I would think an after-school program between the schools, Lowell High School, and Greater Lowell could work. I'm a firm believer in that. I believe it could work. I mean, there'll be a lot of obstacles to overcome, but I believe it'll work. I mean, if you get your shop hours, your trade hours, in electrical, plumbing, HVAC, understand the waiting list is 100. So we don't know exactly what these kids want to take. And I'm not sure they know what they want to take. That's why there's an exploratory, and then you go into, your sub-trade, the 2 that you want to take. At least that's what it was when I was there, and then you go into your trade.
Because it's really not a funding issue per se, because this is all reimbursement from the state. I'm sure there might be a slight increase for, technical high school education. I'm not really sure. I'd be interested to find out. So it's more just taking the money that we get from the state, from 70 and others, and shift it up to, the Greater Lowell Voc. Particularly in light of the fact there's a $65 million expansion and enlargement of that footprint. So you've answered my question, so thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Gitchia, for getting involved in this very important position that you would be holding. And I did have a few questions, and along the line, they have disappeared. So I would be concerned as to your rapport and your overview of the present superintendent there.
I think he's doing a great job. I really do. Everything's moving the way it should be. I mean, if you look at the MCAS scores, it's jumped up in the last 2 years. I mean, everything seems to be going the way it should be, and I think he's doing a great job. From everybody I've asked, he works hard. That's all you can ask for.
Yep. Thank you very much. Thank you for your input.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I share my colleague's opinion that we appreciate you coming forward and your interest in the position. My question would actually be to give you an opportunity to share with us what inspired you. What is it that you're passionate about, that you want to bring to this position, that made you put yourself through all this?
Thank you. What I'm passionate about is the school itself and the children. I've had that opportunity. My father taught at Greater Lawrence. I remember going in summer to Greater Lawrence, and we could jump around the carpentry, over to the plumbing, over to paint and decorating, which he taught, to masonry. And I think every child, every kid should be exposed to it. I mean, there's how-to books out there. I think Greater Lowell's an awesome opportunity for every child. I'm a proud graduate, and I honestly believe in it. I think it's great. It gives you great coping skills. It makes you get out there. I'd like to see them more involved in the community. I mean, I drove to work the other day in Drake, and Greater Lowell was fixing the softball dugouts across from the fire station on 113. I think it's something we should look at. If it fits in the schedule, why not? They have a paint and decorating department. Maybe someone needs a house paint in the city. It's stuff to look at, stuff like that. It's just, I think it's time. I'm older. It's time for me to give back to these guys like I got given back to.
Thank you so much for putting yourself out there. This is, I'm sure, has been a rather challenging process.
Yes.
So I just have a couple of questions. I'm going to start off with the easy ones. So what is your experience in board governance? Do you have any experience in board governance?
I was on the executive board for the union. It's set up like the school committee. Mm-hmm. It's basically the same thing. Contracts, I've dealt with contracts being the union steward of Verizon. I was the chief steward for 6-7 years. Negotiating grievances, quite a few grievances. Been through arbitration. So I have quite a bit of experience in that aspect.
Okay. And do you have experience in finance? I mean,
I do. I was the accountant for the union for 3 years. With the LM2, with budget, dealing with paying bills, stuff like that. Yeah, I do.
all right. And have you had experience evaluating or supervising employees? Because a large part of your job as a committee member is to evaluate your superintendent.
Yeah, we had to evaluate the business manager. We did that every 3 years by voting them in. We held each other accountable. I mean, you had to do that when you're on the board. Okay. Everybody has to do the job. Obviously, you guys would know better than anybody. The board won't work.
Right. So my last question, and this goes back to a report that we had generated, actually Lowell Public Schools Administration had generated for the committee, where we looked at those children that were fed back to Lowell Public Schools from the technical high school, from charter schools, from other high schools, and they were funneled back into the high school, and half of those children wound up dropping out. These were children that were clearly more bent on or more apt to grab onto and succeed with a vocational education. What do you think that the technical high school can do to better retain these children that are clearly having issues?
First, we're going to have to retain these children, I don't know what you can do about it. I mean, is it a broken home? We have to find the root of the problem. What is the problem? And then we can address the problem itself. I mean, I'm looking over numbers at Greater Lowell with the special needs. In the last budget, they hired an extra special needs teacher. And their percentage of special needs students is higher than the high school. They're graduating the special needs kids at 85.5%, which is 17% higher than the state average. So they're doing a great job out there with that. Some kids are going to fall through the cracks.
Right.
I mean, they're taking kids now after October 1st. So, I mean, I think they're trying to address it, and yeah, you're right, it's going to have to be looked at.
Right.
And I mean, I will look at it if I'm appointed.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Kitcher, and thank you for your interest in the position. It's been reported over the years that there's been a nepotism problem out at the vocational school. Number one, do you agree with that assessment, and do you currently have any family members that work at the vocational school?
I'll answer the second first, and then I'll go back to the first. I don't have any family working out there at all. And as for the past, the nepotism problem, I can't answer that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, when I went to school there, I thought it was the best thing in the world. You know, I did. I don't know about the past. And, you know, I really wouldn't want to comment on it. I know going forward, if you qualified for the job, you should have the job. I don't, to be brutally honest, it doesn't matter to me whose sister or brother you are. If you're qualified, you get the job. And if you're not, you don't get it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Getchia, for coming forward. My question for you is, currently the admission policy for the district, for the Great Lowell Technical High School, weighs heavily on discipline and on attendance, and I just wanted to know if you would consider changes to that admission policy. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you brought this up because it's in 4 parts. And 40%, it's 130 points. 40 points is attendance, 40 points is discipline, 40 is grades, and 10's from the guidance counselor. I think it needs to be looked at. And like I said earlier, school committeeman Bahu made a motion out there to work with the school committee. I think that's a great motion. I think it should be looked into. I think it needs to be a joint effort on that policy. And I mean, that might go back to your question where, how do we knock down that gap? You know, the 100 kids, the waiting list. That might be part of the problem. I don't know, but I know we have to sit down collectively as a group and hammer out some issues. And I think that'll work. And yeah, it definitely, absolutely has to be looked at.
Just one more question. Are there any programming changes that you would want to bring forward for the Greater Lowell Technical High School?
I mean, I don't want to goof this up, but there's a dental program they want to establish, and I'm all for that. If you look at Middlesex, there's a waiting list for dental hygienists. I think it's a dental assistant program they want to implement. And yeah, I'm all for that, because you could work with Middlesex, because if you look at the medical program, the nursing program at Greater Lowell, they have a nursing program at Middlesex, where after 2 years you can become an RN, and there's a waiting list there. So obviously there's a need. In any trade that there's a need in, I'm open to looking into. You have to give the kids the opportunity to succeed in the real world, and that's how you do it.
Thank you, Ms. Getchia, for applying for this position. My question actually has been asked of you many different ways, but I still want to ask it. When you look at the acceptance policies that the vocational school does use, it can be very restrictive. And there are, we'll say, the 100 students that don't get accepted. For the most part, you can almost consider them automatically as dropouts. And what I've seen over the years, these students who really don't fit at Lowell High School, or those students who don't quite fit at the vocational school, they need perhaps a little bit of both. But I don't like it when we talk about students on a waiting list. It really is students who have a lot of issues to deal with, and it's because of some discipline issues that they've had in the past. And there needs to be a far more positive approach to dealing with those students. I mean, because they become an expense to society and we lose them. And you're right when you say it's up to the 2 superintendents to work it out, but it really comes from the power of the school committee to state what they would like to see and how they would plan to fund it. So could you see actually attacking the problem and resolving the problem? Because it's a problem that's been there for it's been there since the inception of the school. Thank you.
Councilor Samaras, yeah, I can see me doing that. I agree wholeheartedly with you. It needs to be addressed. And, you know, you're right, it starts with the school committee and ends with the superintendents. And yes, if I'm appointed, yes, I will ask those questions. I'll follow through on them. I think those kids, I don't think they need to be dropped. We don't need dropouts. You know, and I agree with you. It needs to be addressed. And it's starting. There's a motion on there was a motion out of Greater Lowell to work together with the school committee. It has to start there to bring the people forward. And I will work on that. Absolutely will if I'm appointed to that. I think it's important. I don't think anybody should drop out of school.
Thank you.
You know, being last in the line, not much to add, but just, you know, I appreciate you coming in and applying for a position. Sitting in the well with 15 people staring you down it's got to be very nerve-wracking. And
I've been in worse spots, Dan.
But you should be proud of yourself. You're outstanding for your presentation, to answering your questions. Again, you're a lot to be proud of. So thank you for coming down, and best of luck.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Kitchier. That concludes the question and answer. I don't know if you have a closing statement. If not, we're certainly grateful, and we thank you for your time and interest in the position, but the floor is yours.
As you guys can see, I'm passionate about Greater Lowell. I went there. I know what the value of a trade school education, a vocational education is. I mean, I've brought up on it. I've worked through it. I'm in the field now. And I mean, I understand what those kids are going through in that seat. I've been there. I've sat in that seat. I know what it's like. Am I going to get a co-op job? I fortunately got one at MKS. I understand what each and every one of those kids are going through. I mean, I know how hard it is to go to college, you know, what it's like to pay the bills, you know, I've been in those seats. You know, I'd like to thank everybody here, school committee, Mr. Mayor, City Council for the opportunity to be appointed to this seat. And if I'm appointed, I won't let you down. I appreciate it. Thank you.
The next candidate we're going to interview this evening is Curtis LeMay. Welcome back to City Council Chamber. And without any further ado, as we mentioned with the other candidates, please feel free to make an opening statement. We'll proceed with question and answers. Maybe we'll start this, if there's no objection from members, we'll start with Councilor O'Rourke down at this end. I guess the folks of us in the middle were stuck. But with that, welcome Mr. LeMay, and the floor is yours.
I would just say that I also appreciated Mr. Gitchier's input this evening. Appreciate him and his interest in being a candidate. My name is Curtis LeMay. I believe most of you might know me. I've been, if not personally, I know all of you. I've spoken to all of you. I'm a lifelong resident of Lowell. Currently in my 33rd year with the Middlesex Sheriff's Office. My wife, Susan, and I have 4 children, the youngest of which was a recent graduate of the school, vocational tech school. Myself, I was not a graduate of the school, but upon high school, I sought my journeyman certificate in carpentry, and it was a 4-year night school course, and my 3rd year finished at Lowell Trade School because 1974, my last year, is the year the school opened. And I finished my last year there, and when I went to that school compared to Lowell Trade School, I was in awe because quite frankly, I got lost in the building. The building is just unbelievable, even today. But I feel I have time. Public service, as you know, has been in my family for a number of years. I've been fortunate. I have a lot of respect for the chambers here. I've served on this side of the rail. Public service is important to me. It's always tough with decisions and debates, but we've had a lot of that, to the point that regarding the school, I'm not new to the school. I've been a supporter of the school for 30 years. I've known basically all the superintendents except the first one. I've supported their endeavors for raising funds for scholarships, the golf, superintendent's dinners, all of that. I've taken the liberty to introduce myself to the superintendent. I called him, I set up a meeting, I sat with him for a little over an hour. I got a little better acclimated with the school, where they're at today. I feel I have some budgetary experience, working, whether it was on the council or some other things. I sit on a couple of boards in the city, namely Lowell General Hospital and Lowell 5 Cent Savings Bank. I've been there on those boards for a number of years. The school is important not only to Lowell, but the whole district. I mean, Lowell, from a manufacturing standpoint, that's what Lowell's all about. And as the baby boomers retire, I see the need for a lot more trades, whether they're building trades or anything else. And I think it's incumbent upon us to produce the finest and have the nicest school. And in my conversation with Mr. Bourgeois, the superintendent, there is a $65 million addition going on at that school. $7 million of that 65 is being dedicated just to the cafeteria. But as much as it's still somewhat a state-of-the-art to the school, there are many things that need to be updated from an infrastructure standpoint, whether it's the fire suppression system or outside the building. And I think what my experience, I'm a good listener. I can work with the superintendent. I'm not a micromanager guy. I hear good things in speaking to some of the faculty out there. We have a lot of great faculty, and I've heard some of your concerns. I won't ramble them off unless you want to pose those questions to me, but I won't take much of your time on my opening statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. LeMay. If we can, I'd like to proceed with Council Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And once again, Mr. LeMay, thank you for applying and showing interest in the position. A quick, simple question is, what, in your professional experience, makes you the best candidate to be appointed to the board?
I'm sorry, what?
What, your professional experience makes you the best candidate to be appointed to the board?
Well, as I just stated, I think I have a lot of life experiences. As I come near to my retirement years, I think I have the time I'll make dedicated to do a good job for the school. And like I said, I have certain knowledge of certain budgetary concerns, and as we outlay and work with the new superintendent towards the next budget. My understanding is this addition is going to go online in 22 months. I don't know how many months in that they're at right now, but it looks like it's taking shape. The superintendent has told me that it's on time and on budget, and it looks really good.
And one more question. If you did have a disagreement over philosophy or whatnot with the superintendent, how would you go about correcting that or making a problem solved?
Well, I think working hand in hand with my colleagues, if I'm successful on the committee and subcommittee-wise, to work in that fashion rather than to, nitpick and make a problem a worse problem. I think I have a good open mind in dealing with the superintendent.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lemay, for your application. I'm going to go back to the same question I asked the previous candidate. I've always been concerned about the number of students who do not get accepted into the vocational school because of what I think a very selective process. And because of that process, a number of these students become dropouts. They neither fit at Lowell High School or the vocational school. There is a certain number of students in the middle who at some point need help. And I think it's incumbent upon both the high school and the vocational school to reach out to these students. But I think there has to be a willingness from the governing powers to do this. Do you see yourself championing such a cause, or keep the status quo of each school?
No, I don't think I'd remain it as a status quo. I'd like to assist and champion the cause. Obviously, or unfortunately, the local high school is obligated to pick up these people that don't either meet criteria or the ones that can't get in because there's a waiting list. It's my goal to research and inquire with the board as well as the superintendent in making ways and means of that getting better and whittling it down. I did talk to the superintendent, and as Mr. Gitchie alluded to, I know the list has gone down in the last several years from a high of 300 to 400. It looks like there is a possibility of even getting that down a little more once the remodeling is done and utilizing some other spaces and consolidating and opening up a couple more classrooms. So it was my understanding that these wouldn't be additional programs, although I'm open to that, but there would be smaller classrooms, and that would assist as well with the overflow on the waiting list.
Another question. I mean, I can understand opening up more classroom space, but I really don't think that's an answer. I think it's a commitment to dealing with the needs. Do you see working with both councils, the city councils and the vocational council, to come up with a common program that could meet these needs?
Absolutely, as well as the Lowell School Committee. Whatever questions that people have, feel free to pose them to me. I'd like to make inquiries and sit down with those people and pick their brains as to what they'd like to see and come up with an agreement.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lemay. I'll stick with the same question also. What programming do you think should be expanded or eliminated at the Greater Lowell Technical High School?
Well, I'll be upfront with you. I'm not privy to every program that's there, but I know from a building trade standpoint, there are those that are turned away from certain trades that I'd like to see if we could expand that. My understanding is the equipment is quite good. But as far as new programs, I'm open-minded. I would take a look and see, and once again, sit with my colleagues, some of who have been there long-term, and come up with ways and means of expanding or including new ones?
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Lemay. In fairness, let me begin by asking you the same question I asked Mr. Gitchia. Do you think there has been a nepotism problem out at the vocational school over the years? And do you have any family members currently employed at the vocational school?
I do not have any family members employed at the school. What was the first part of your question, Counselor?
It's been reported over the years that there's been a nepotism problem out at the vocational school, and I just want to know your opinion of that. I do have a follow-up question as well.
You know, I would frown from the nepotism thing as far as seeking direct family members or that for jobs there. I mean, if they're qualified like anybody else, I believe that there's other areas or other schools or other entities where they might be able to fit in. Just to, I think it's a bad perception on my part.
Thank you, Mr. Lemay. As a follow-up, if you were appointed to this position, would you be willing to file a motion requesting that the administration provide you with a 5-year report on what legal fees have been paid over the last 5 years and what settlements have been paid as a result of personnel issues at the vocational school?
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I don't know what would.
Again, because I mean there are tax dollars that,
Yeah.
my understanding, it's been reported that have been spent over the years settling personnel cases as well as paying private legal firms to defend the vocational school. So again, just to open up the windows and let the light of day in, would you be willing to support that type of motion?
And that's in the past 5 years?
I would say at least the last 5 years.
Yeah, I don't know if that's ever been poised by the current, well, former school committees, but I'm receptive to that.
Welcome. Thank you for putting your name out there, Mr. Lemay. The only question I had was, would you be willing, as a committee member, to examine perhaps expanding your evening programming, weekend programming, to really better serve the public at large? Because there are a fair number of people out there in our communities, in our sending communities, that even post-high school are looking for some kind of trade, technical trade training and certification. So I just wonder as to your thoughts on that.
Yeah, yes, I would. The only current program that I'm privy to would be the nursing program that they have out there. I guess there is they only allow so many to take the course, and they have to turn away an unbelievable amount of people that want to go into the nursing profession, and I think they're needed like other trades and other vocational people. I'd like to see ways and means of expanding those as well as others.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lemay, for joining us this evening. My question to you again from the last round as well, just to give you an opportunity to tell us, what is it that really inspired you to seek out this position? What is it that you're passionate about at the vocational school that you think you'll bring to your service on the board?
Well, that's kind of easy for me. I mean, public service has been in my family over 25 years. My dad and I were both fortunate to sit on his side of the rail for quite a while. So public service was very important to us. I guess through trials and tribulations and debates and votes, I'd like to say that one of the most important votes I think I made was in the late 80s under the Jim Campbell administration, and George Sapasaris was the school superintendent, on the passing the money for the school building fund to build 7 new schools and additions. You know, being on the municipal side, on the city council versus the school committee side, I aspired on the municipal side for obvious reasons, but it was George Sapasaris, and I had talked to Bill, I think, one time when we got some money over to high school. I took a tour with Bill when he was the headmaster. We needed a big facelift here on the school building program, and I was proud to be part of that. And I think the kids and the citizens of Lowell got a good deal. The state gave us a good deal. We were able to build several schools and add on to some others, and I think it brought us into the next century.
Well, good evening, Mr. LeMay, and thank you for your public service throughout the years and for stepping up to the plate and throwing your hat into the ring for this appointment. I'm not going to ask you the same question as I asked Lee, because I know that you've already answered it to some degree. Your rapport with the superintendent, you already met with him, and you feel that,
I have.
I'm sure that you feel he's doing a pretty decent job. But my concern this time is if you were to gain and be successful in this appointment this evening, what is your number one priority that you will work with when you go to the school?
Well, I have to say that it'll probably be this addition coming to fruition to make sure. Let me preface my remarks. I was recently appointed by the sheriff to be on the transition team. We just put a $40 million expansion up at the Berwick House of Corrections. So I represented him, and I worked with contractors, architects, DCAM, the state, on a daily basis for 9 months. We built a 500-bed expansion in 9 months. Granted, we went around the clock in some months, but that building come out pretty good. There was some nooks and crannies, but I think I have a good feel on what's going on, and I'd like to make sure that comes online. As the superintendent had told me, I took him for his word, on time, on budget, that it's going to bring us right up there.
Thank you, Mr. May, for expressing your interest as well. What do you feel is the biggest challenge at the school? If you could fix one thing, what would you think the priority would be to fix?
To accept every student that applied.
That's a good answer. Secondly, I meant to ask Mr. Gittier, but this term expires, is it about a year? Mr. Clerk, do you know?
That's my understanding.
So are you interested in running for this position following the expiration of the term?
I am, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. The mayor asked my question, so I don't have any.
Damn it.
Thank you, Curtis. Thank you for your service. The same question I asked to Lee Getshire. What are your, other than, we talked about the biggest challenge, what are your 3 top priorities that you would really focus on as a member of the Greater Lowell Technical School Committee?
I'd like to delve into the sports program, and I think I'd like to get involved a little more with the faculty as far as their concerns and how they feel the school is progressing, as well as, obviously letting the superintendent do his job, but to make sure he's doing it to the best of his ability, as well as the course of the direction that the school committee puts forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. LeMay. I guess my question was about night programs. So would you be willing to looking at the possibility of expanding night programs academically and in the trade part of it?
Yes. That's the short of it. I mean,
Sure.
I don't know how many programs they currently offer in the evening. Again, I don't claim to have all the answers, but
Yeah.
I will get answers to questions such as that
Okay.
for you, and
And
I'll
I'm
be,
not sure either if they actually offer programs at night that you could pay a fee and, you know, get certifications. They may do that now, I'm not sure, but, you know, that might be something that should be looked at too.
my understanding is that they do.
Okay,
Which ones and how many, I'm not privy to.
yeah, okay, thank you.
Mr. Lemay, thank you for applying. I don't have any questions. You and I have known each other for a long time, and we've talked about your candidacy in the past, and so I just wish you good luck.
Thank you, Counselor.
Good evening, Mr. Lemay, and I want to thank what most of the colleagues have said tonight. We certainly appreciate you putting your name forward. It's not easy to be in a forum like this, and
A little more in depth than I thought, but that's okay.
That's
what we're here for.
I know, but I think that both candidates obviously handled themselves very well. The question I have, and it's my understanding that you, if you're elected, would be, or appointed, would be for 1 year. And if you could turn the clock ahead right now, and a year from now, sit down and say, what is the most proudest moment that I have accomplished as a committeeman out at the Voc?
Well, at this point in time, I would say that a year from now, we have a state-of-the-art school with a $65 million uplift, and we no longer have a waiting list at the Greater Lowell Voc, and we're able to take all students that want to come here.
Thank you, David. I have no questions, but I would like to make a statement that I'm not asking questions because I had met with both candidates one-on-one individually prior to this evening, and I just want to say publicly that both men are extremely passionate and committed to serving, and it's certainly not for the money. This is an unpaid position, and these men are stepping up and just to help out the kids in the school. And I want to commend both of you for doing that. It's certainly a commendable act. And either way, whichever this goes this evening, it's a win for the children and the school. So I would just want to say thank you to both of you, and good luck to both candidates. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Counselor.
Again, thank you, Mr. Lemay, for coming down tonight and your interest in the position. I want to first agree with Councilor O'Rourke that I don't like being at the end of the line here, but it is such as it is.
Good thing there's not more candidates, huh?
No, more candidates would be a good thing, right? And I also want to echo Councilor Belanger's comments that I think the 15 of us have a difficult job right now because both of you have exhibited that you're qualified and would be excellent candidates for this role. So, so we have a tough choice here, and I think you would both be good selections. One last question I will ask you, Mr. Lemay, though, is you recently had a daughter graduate from the Voc School, is that correct?
That's correct.
Based on that experience specifically, you know, through her interaction with the Voc School, what are some of the things you might change, specifically based on her experience? There's got to be something that, you know, you might want to do differently based on that interaction.
I've never twisted my children's arms and what they sought or looked for in education, other than getting the best bang for the time that they put in, or the best bang for their buck. But my daughter, in this particular case, took cosmetology. She's using that. It won't be her primary vocation, but like any other vocation, like in carpentry, you don't take away with what you learn. I was under the tutelage of Irving Twarg back at the Lowell Trade School, and I can tell you that he was a well-respected gentleman, and he was a hands-on guy, and he would be right there with his students. That's what I like in an instructor or a classroom teacher, that they give hands-on, and they treat everybody the same.
Well, thank you, Mr. Lemay. I know you thought it was in depth, but it's just going to get a little bit deeper. Council Rourke has one more question. What's that?
I don't know for the questions. I just want to make a statement if possible.
Oh,
Yeah, after his closing argument.
okay.
I was going to say, he should wait till the end anyway. We start with school committeeman Gendron.
Okay.
I would just close and say that
Right.
you all have your jobs, whether it's the municipal or school committee side, having sat there and been there and done that, it's not an easy job. Whatever you do, you either look favorably towards this side or towards this side. So you can't please everybody, but I know all of you have done the best job that you can. Some have been here longer than others, but it's a learning experience, and I think you've all done well compared to what we've come up against the last several years facing the city, whether it's school related, or municipally related. But it looks like you work well together, and if you need to get together, you do, and you combat the problem or you confront it, but you're willing to work what's in the best interest of the taxpayer. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lemay. Council Chair will recognize Council Rourke and Council Madam School Committee Woman Ross Sigowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to both candidates for coming down tonight. I just want to take a quick moment to recognize the reason why we're here tonight. The gentleman that's being replaced is actually here. He did a terrific job serving Lowell on the board, and the city is very fortunate to have him now running our water department. So thank you to Eric Gitchia for serving the kids on the board, and we thank him for being the head of the water department and helping the city in that way as well. So just wanted to recognize him being here tonight and thank him for his service.
Thank you, Council. Ms. Ross Sigowitz.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd also like to thank both gentlemen for coming forward and putting themselves out there for consideration. It's not an easy task to be grilled by all of us with different bents and different philosophies and different opinions. That being said, this is the second time we've done this in a couple of years, and perhaps there'll be one more coming up very soon. So I would suggest, and actually I am going to file a motion for the school committee, for the city council to consider, to look actually at the charter language that deals with the succession of this office. We're acting as kingmakers in these cases, and it's not fair. There are other people that have put their names on the ballot, and they were voted on by their peers and by our voters, and the only kingmakers in the city should be the voters of the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ross Sigowitz. Mr. Gendron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to follow up on that statement. I agree with Kristen regarding the process by which we do this. I mean, I'm happy to do this tonight. I'm taking this very seriously, and I'm going to vote by conscience. But at the same time, I believe that we should have a process that allows the people to make a selection, just as it would on the city council. If a councilor were to leave his position, then the next councilor in line would take over. I don't know why that wouldn't be held true also for this seat. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, school committee as well, same process, so makes some sense to take a look into it, or to look into it. Further discussion. Proceeding now, I'll entertain a motion to proceed with the nomination or selection of candidates. Motion by Councilor Samaras, second by Councilor Mercia. And we will proceed with a roll call vote, and when individual's name is called, please state the candidate that you wish to vote for. Make sense? Questions? Mr. Clerk, can I please call a roll?
Counsel Milonazo.
Curtis LeMay.
Counsel Rourke.
Curtis LeMay.
Counsel Samaras.
Curtis LeMay.
Counsel Belanger.
Curtis LeMay.
Mayor Elliott.
Curtis LeMay.
Counsel Kennedy.
Curtis LeMay.
Counsel Leahy.
Curtis LeMay.
Counsel Martin.
Curtis LeMay.
Counsel Mercier.
Curtis LeMay.
Miss Martin. Miss Ross Sikowicz.
Curtis LeMay.
Miss Scott.
Curtis LeMay.
Mr. Conway.
Curtis LeMay.
Mr. Gendron.
Lee Getchier.
Mr. Leary.
Lee Getchier.
Mr. LeMay.
13 voting for Mr. LeMay, 2 for Mr. Getchier.
If I could, now that the tally's 13-2, I'd like a motion.
Okay, hold on. So Mr. Leary, just 1 second. We have to accept this vote. This is the official vote, and then we'll go back and make the amendment to the change. Having tallied the votes, 13 again, Mr. LeMay, 2 for Mr. Getchier. Mr. LeMay has been selected by this body to replace outgoing Mr. Getchier for that seat.
Thank you, Mayor. Just
Mr.
to make a
Leary?
motion to make it unanimous as the entire group for Curtis LeMay.
Okay, motion by Mr. Leary, seconded by Mr. Gendron.
Yes, I would also like to change my vote, Mr. Mayor, to
Okay,
Curtis LeMay,
that,
as a show of solidarity.
2 members want to change their vote to make it unanimous. Mr. Clerk? So noted. So the vote for Curtis LeMay will now be made unanimous. Do we need a motion for that? No? Okay, we don't need a motion. It's just a parliamentary procedure to change the vote. To the both candidates, again, we want to thank you for expressing interest. And Mr. LeMay, okay, you have to get sworn in by the clerk. If you'd like to do that now, we can do that now. If you'd like to go to his office, it's yours.
I'll take a familiar phrase. What's the wish of the council?
I say there's no time like the present, but I'm just one individual, so.
Could I just say, Mr. Mayor, I want to thank Mr. Getchier as well as his brother for his service. I'm honored and humbled, and I will do the best job I can and not let you down. Thank you.
Now entertain a motion to adjourn by Council Belanger, seconded by Council Kennedy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. This special meeting of both the school committee and the city council stands adjourned.
Thanks, you too.
Speech. I'll make a speech. Oh yeah, Frank Singleton. Hey, good man. I gotta see you again. Right, exactly.
Would the clerk please call the roll? Please come to order.
Counsel Mercia.
Here.
Counsel Milanazzo.
Here.
Counsel Rourke.
Here.
Counsel Samaras.
Here.
Counsel Belanger.
Here.
Mayor Elliott.
Here.
Counsel Kennedy. Counsel Leahy.
Here.
Counsel Martin.
Here.
9 present.
Being past 7 o'clock, we were going to go right into the general public hearings that have been advertised. The first is an ordinance. Ordinance amending Chapter 110, an increase in fines for bikes, skateboards, and roller skates. This is the second reading. Now entertain a motion. We will now open this portion of the hearing for those wishing to speak in favor. Those wishing to speak in favor of this ordinance. In favor? Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Now open up this portion of the public hearing for those wishing to speak in opposition. Those wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition, seeing none. That portion of the public hearing is closed as well. What is the wish of the body? Councilor Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is a portion of this amendment to the ordinance, section 110-2, which states, "It's hereby amended by inserting before the period in the second sentence the words, 'and the skateboard may be seized.'" I'd like to add, "and the skateboard and/or bicycle may be seized." I don't know why we can't add that onto it as well. It's something that former Mayor Bud Caulfield came to the podium and stressed about that, which I never gave it a thought till I looked at it again. So I don't think we need another public hearing, but if my colleagues support it, I don't know why we can't add and/or bicycles, so.
Mr. Manager?
I actually discussed that with the police department, and it was their recommendation that we don't do that, because it's one thing to seize a skateboard and they can put it in the backseat of the police cruiser, but to seize a bicycle and try and transport that bicycle and store it would be maybe a little bit too difficult for the police department to try and handle, so we thought it might be too difficult.
Do we seize cars occasionally? And I can always get a bike in the back of my car, and I got a small car. I don't know what the problem is. Maybe it's a little extra work. Is that the thing here? Because I think you should seize. If you're going to seize a skateboard, what are we going to do? Fine the kid and he's never going to pay the fine? But you're going to take his bike away? He's going to be heartbroken about it, I think. Or are we afraid to do that? I don't know. I know the chief is here, but, you know, after a while, you just get a little bit frustrated with being told, no, I can't do that. I can get a bike in my car. It's pretty darn small. I don't know what the problem is, but
I agree. I mean, some of these kids are pretty old riding these bikes, too. So, is that...
do we not have a trunk in a cruiser? You can't open the trunk and shove the bike in there?
Chief,
You know, we're just
Taylor?
babying the society, you know? We're going to differentiate. Take your skateboard, but the bike's a little big, so...
I understand we don't do auctions any longer either, but, Chief, can you explain? Because I think it's a worthy point.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the concern potentially was some of these bicycles are very expensive, and it could become a liability. But, I mean, if the will of the council is to likewise seize the bicycles, we can, you know, certainly do that.
Council Milonazo, then Council Samaras.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would support adding the word bicycle in that sentence. And I also want to point out that it does say may be seized. It could certainly be up to the discretion of the police officer if he or she decide not to seize the bicycle. But they should at least have the ability or the option to do that. So I would certainly support adding bicycle, but leave it as bicycle and skateboard may be seized. Thank you, Mr.
Put that in the form of a motion, Council Mercia?
Yes.
Okay, motion by Council Mercia, second by Council Milonazo to insert the word bicycles. Council Samaras?
Thank you, Mayor Elliott. No, I also agree on that. I mean, we did have some problems in the past with the fireworks. You know, did we really carry out the policy? And I think students, children, anyone, they're testing us at all times, and they have to see that we have some resolve. And if we don't show resolve, it just doesn't work. So the thing is, I know this is, you know, it makes it difficult. It makes police work a little more difficult and accountability more difficult. And I understand what the chief had to say, and he's correct. But if we're going to stop this from occurring, I believe the motion by Councilor Mercier is correct to include bicycles. And as Councilor Milonazo said, of course, it's at the discretion of the police officer. But we have to deal with it. If we don't deal with it, don't bother. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Samaras. For a discussion, Council Leahy.
Through you to, if I can ask the city solicitor, I was under the understanding that we couldn't do that, but can we seize a bike? Someone had told me that you couldn't, and the difference being between a bicycle and automotive is, you know, they seize a car when your registration is up, but, you know, can we seize a bicycle?
Madam Solicitor?
Well, I'd also ask the police chief would be free to
to respond to that as well. But there are aspects of this ordinance that do in fact carry a criminal penalty, and it's under that aspect of the ordinance that the seizure was taking place.
Yes, I think we could, and I think clearly what we would try and do is take the bicycle or the skateboard and return it to a responsible adult, a parent, or potentially a guardian. I don't have the ordinance in front of me, but I assume that's included in the ordinance.
Okay.
Thank you. Further discussion? All those, further discussion on the amendment? You got a roll call? Roll call on the amendment to include the word bicycles.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas. Further discussion on the ordinance as amended? Seeing none, roll call.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next item on the agenda is utility public hearings. Item 4.1, first hearing of the evening by Verizon New England, request underground conduit at 33 East Merrimack Street. That is a second reading, so we will now proceed with opening this portion of the hearing for those wishing to speak in favor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. For the record, my name is Joseph Gleason. I'm a right-of-way agent with Verizon New England Inc. Our office is located at 900 Chelmsford Street here in the city of Lowell. The petition before the council this evening is a fairly simple one. At 33 East Merrimack Street, there's an office of the Massachusetts Department of Children and Families. We have been advised or been requested by DCF to bring fiber cable to upgrade their data network bandwidth at that location. What we found, however, is that the conduit that is already within the underground on Merrimack Street is occupied. It's full. So we do not have any spare conduit or vacant conduit to bring the fiber to the DCF offices. So the request is to build a new conduit, approximately 46 feet, 36 within the roadway or the driving area of Merrimack Street, 10 across the sidewalk to the premises at 33 East Merrimack Street. The fiber will be coming from an existing manhole. It's designated 347D as shown on the plan that we submitted. And that, Mr. Mayor, is in a sense the sum and substance of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? In favor? In favor, seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Now I'll open up this portion of the public hearing for those wishing to speak in opposition. In opposition? In opposition, seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. What is the wish of the body?
Move approval.
Move approval by Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Martin. Motion to refer to the wire inspector. Again by Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed, that motion carries. Still under utility public hearings, we have another public hearing by National Grid and Verizon New England for a request for a pole location at the corner of Chelmsford Street and Howard Street. Now open up this portion of the public hearing for those wishing to speak in favor. If you could state your name and address for the record, we'd appreciate it.
Michelle Stacy, I'm a representative for National Grid, and we're looking to set a pole to carry our equipment. The poles beside each of the poles where we're going to install this, they're already too busy for us to install the equipment that we need.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? In favor? In favor, seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Now open up this portion of the public hearing for those wishing to speak in opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition, seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed as well. Entertain a motion to refer to the wire inspector. Council Leahy?
Sure, I had a question. Is this for a customer, or is this for equipment from National Grid?
Equipment for National Grid. It's, they have on here that the existing, it's to balance, I'm sorry, it's for a disconnect, so they can balance the feeders, the main line of the feeders. It's equipment for us.
Okay. All right. The only reason why I ask is because, you know, usually when these come up, it's for a customer or a business. But we've been asking to remove some double poles for quite some time. And so I'm going to vote against this tonight because we've had representatives in maybe last April, and I've been watching some of these poles, and they're just not coming out. And to be quite honest, a lot of them seem to be more from Verizon wires that are left on there. But, so this is one opportunity where I'll vote against it because it's not going to affect, initially going to affect an immediate customer. Thank you.
Okay. I'll bring that back to the office. That's Dave Gendel's group, but I will bring it to him.
Okay, maybe, we typically get a quarterly update or a quarterly report from the offices, so that would be helpful to find out a status report on where we are with pole removals.
Okay, I can bring that back, but that's not my department. I don't have anything to do with the double poles, but I will bring that information back.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Councilor Kennedy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I think Council Leahy brings up a good point, and you'll recall that for the past couple of years, periodically, we've had people from the utilities come in to talk about the reducing them with double poles, and it seems to me that it might be about that time again to do something like that. And so if we could do that at a subsequent meeting, I think that that's probably the most effective way, and certainly a lot more effective than just rifling a letter off. I think if they have to come here and explain it, it always seems that there's a reduction, and you know, maybe it's still slow, but it's slow progress, which is better than no progress at all. So if there's no objection, if the city manager could set something like that up and have them come in, then that would be.
Mr. Manager?
Through you, Mayor, I met with Stephanie Lee from Verizon. She's from the External Affairs Office, and she wants to come in to give an update on the double poles because she indicated to me that they have made progress. So I can set that up for her to come in and give an update on it. But she said they have made some positive progress, and she can address it when she comes in.
That's fine. I have been keeping an eye on some. I mean, there's a couple of poles on Andover Street that have been sitting there since Council Laurie made motions 2 years ago. There's a section of a pole that's just hanging in the midair with Verizon wires. There's an empty pole, number 25, sitting there. That's just one, you know, specific case right there, but there's numerous poles that really have not come out in a timely fashion that we were promised. There's really no reason for these double poles to be hanging around. There's plenty of work for the crews, time management, whatever it is, but, you know, our city should not look trashy because, I guess, you know, there's no other way to put it, that they can't manage their time to pull these out. You know, things need to change.
Further discussion on this item? All those in favor of sending this to the wire inspector for report and recommendation signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Councilor Lee would like to be recorded in opposition. Thank you. Moving on to the next item of the agenda, actually we revert back to, that is the last public hearing. So reverting back to the top of the agenda, under the city clerk, we have the minutes of the city council meeting of September 23rd. We have minutes from the Public Safety Subcommittee, September 30th, for acceptance as well. Move to approve by Councilor Milanazzo, second by Councilor O'Rourke. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the city auditor's portion of the agenda, we have a communication, city auditor regarding FY15 year-to-date budget report. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Hannah York, our auditor. Ms. York, do you have your report in front of you there? If you could turn to page 36, where it talks about the telephone exchange. If you could explain to me why we went through 92% of that and we have 9 months still left. What is that all about?
If you look at that, most of that is in an encumbrance, which means the purchase order is out. We haven't actually spent the money yet, but we've just encumbered the money.
Oh,
So out of that, 154,000 is an encumbrance. So that's just saying we're setting aside the budget so that it doesn't get spent on something else, but we have a contract and a PO in place.
And this telephone exchange is for the telephone service in the city hall? What is this exchange that we're talking about?
I would have to go double check on that.
Mr. Baldwin.
Yeah, Counselor, this budget line item is used for all of the telephone systems in City Hall throughout the city. The entire phone budget is budgeted in this. It's in the purchasing department. We use that for all of the expenses, and as the auditor mentioned, it's fully encumbered towards the beginning of the fiscal year.
So it's specifically stated and slated for telephone exchange and nothing else?
That's correct.
So you couldn't take it, that's why it's like this, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. I thought it was spent and we're looking for more money pretty soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion, questions on this report for the auditor? Accept the report as a report of progress and place on file by Councilor Belanger, seconded by Councilor Kennedy. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. We completed section 3, section 4, moving on to section 5, under communications from the city manager. There are responses A through E. Mr. Manager?
There were just two. I have asked some individuals to appear this evening to just explain briefly about our new energy contract, especially in light of the announcement by National Grid that they're going to increase their rates tremendously. Is that this contract is going to save the city of Lowell residents and businesses a lot of money in the next few years to come. And we also have representatives from the city and the Department of Transportation and in the Commonwealth to address any and all questions or concerns about the resurfacing of the Rourke Bridge. So if I could, through you, Mr. Mayor, if I...
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, why don't we proceed? This is a response under city manager, item number C, electric energy rates. Mr. Manager?
I'd ask Mr. Ferrera and the representatives from Hampshire Power Company just to come up and give a brief explanation of what we're doing with this contract and how it's going to positively affect the residents and businesses of Lowell.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. The city has been aggregated since April of last year, or this year. And so what that means is that we have pooled all of the residents that were currently on default service in the city and asked them if they were interested in having the city procure their energy supply for them. And it's an opt-out program, so everyone that's currently on default service would automatically be enrolled into the program unless they chose otherwise. And so they are free to leave the program at any time once they are enrolled. There's no penalty for them to leave. They can switch back to default service, or if they choose, they can choose another energy supplier. We were very fortunate this year. in this contract to negotiate a very favorable contract with Hampshire Power to supply the residents that are currently on the program with a rate that's at 10.8 cents per kilowatt hour. National Grid's basic service rate, which is published in the Department of Public Utilities, is currently at 16.27 cents per kilowatt hour for a residential. The commercial and industrial change a little bit, but ours stay the same throughout, so it doesn't matter whether or not it's residential or commercial. This represents a significant savings for the residents of the city of Lowell for just the period that's covered for this 6 months that National Grid will have this rate at 16 cents. It's going to save the citizens of Lowell approximately $9.5 million. So we worked very hard to negotiate this contract. It is a 3-year contract. It is covered 100% by renewable energy certificates, which means essentially that it's 100% carbon neutral supply that's coming to the city of Lowell. There are approximately 31,000 residential customers and 4,200 commercial and industrial customers in this program. I can bring Colonial Power, which is the city's contractor that helps us to negotiate these supply contracts, if you have any additional questions.
Could I just ask you a question, just
Certainly.
in a nutshell? So effective a certain date, residents in the city of Lowell will see a drop from 16 down to 10.6%.
No. Currently, the citizens are currently on the aggregation program, and their rate is at 7.8 cents per kilowatt hour. National Grid's basic service rate is 8.2 cents. So we actually had a better rate than Grid on the last cycle, and that was a 6-month cycle. We were very concerned about this spike in energy prices over the winter. So we made a conscious choice to take on a longer-term contract so that the residents and commercial ratepayers wouldn't have to absorb large volatile swings in pricing and be able to budget a little bit better their energy costs.
When does this contract take effect?
The contract takes effect on October. It's currently in effect. The first meter read, I believe, was on September 29th, but it's effective now.
Okay. Anything else?
No, there's no other.
Questions for members of the council? Mr. Manager?
I think the best way to state it is, right now, if the residents who are on this aggregation plan stay on the aggregation plan, the savings that they are going to realize on it is going to be exponentially more, because National Grid's rates are going up precipitously, but our aggregation costs are going to stay down low. So they're going to be saving more money in the future than they have been saving right now. So they're in the aggregation plan. They have the right to opt out, but it would be crazy to opt out because the default provider is National Grid, and it's going to be exponentially higher for them to pay for energy if they opt out and go with National Grid than staying where they are right now and see significant savings in the future.
Yeah, if they opted out of the aggregation and went into National Grid supply, it would be about a 50% increase in their energy costs overall.
Further discussion? The reason why I asked is because my office has already been receiving calls that letters have gone out. Is that correct? Have letters gone out to everybody?
That's correct.
31,000 plus the 4,200.
That's correct.
So when they ask me when this is going to take effect, I'm going to tell them that they're already going to see reductions in their electricity bills. Okay. Council Martin?
Thank you. Mr. Manager, I think this is very good news, and I'm glad we did this program, and I think it's going to continue to be a benefit. But so I congratulate you on this next piece of it. But I do have some questions because I'm not sure people's bills are actually going to go down. I mean, if we're paying 7.8 cents now and the new agreement is for 10.8 cents, then the bill's going to go up. It's just not going to go up by as much as if you were a National Grid customer. Is that?
That's correct.
So, so we're going up from 7.8 cents to 10.8, but a National Grid customer is going to go from 8.2 to 16 cents per kilowatt hour.
That's
right?
correct.
And I did see this thing come in the mail, and I appreciate the opportunity to get some questions answered tonight. Who pays the 16 cents per hour, the default rate for National Grid? Do most residential customers pay that, or are there other opportunities for people? I know people can opt for a different supplier, but sometimes that's even more expensive.
Well, when an example would be is if someone moved into an apartment for the first time and they just obtained electric service, they would be placed initially on default service unless they chose a different supplier from the beginning. So they would be placed on that rate right away. As part of the aggregation, I believe it's quarterly that we get a list from National Grid of all of the new people that have been placed on default service, and we enroll them into the aggregation program.
All right. So I'm just trying to point out the benefits of this program for people in the city because very few communities offer this. And so like what percentage of the National Grid customers in this part of the state are on default service? Is it half the customers, 60%, 80%? Do we have any idea about that?
Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Brian Murphy. I'm president of Colonial Power Group, the consulting company retained by the city to help design and manage the program. The question was, correct me if I'm wrong, Councilor Martin, how many or what percentage of residential customers in National Grid service territory are still on default service? It's probably around 75 to 80%.
So we're doing better than that large number.
Yes.
Here in the city. And I'm just also curious about who Hampshire Power is and how we're able to get such a favorable rate from them.
Excellent question. Hampshire Power is the retail energy, licensed retail energy arm of the Hampshire Council of Governments, which is a regional council of governments like the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments. It's based in Northampton and represents 30-plus towns in the central and western part of the state. Years ago, they developed a we'll call it a side business of delivering retail energy to their member municipalities. And they've since grown that part of their business, if you will, to offering it to residents and commercial customers. They are a nonprofit, so they're not motivated by expanding their profit margins. They like to keep customers, so they're able to offer unusually competitive rates compared to other retailers in our experience.
Are they similar to a municipal light plant, or they don't really generate their own?
Correct. It's run out of an office. You know, there's nobody wearing a hard hat at Hampshire Power. They don't own or operate generating assets or maintain distribution lines like a municipal utility would.
All right. Thank you very much. Congratulations. I think this is very good news, particularly in light of the recently announced request for increase by National Grid. So I think this is going to be something that proves to be beneficial for us for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't want to elaborate too much on this situation, but to add on to Councilor Martin's remarks, that I want to commend both the previous administration and Manager Murphy for this work, because the city of Lowell has escaped two 30% increases back-to-back by National Grid, and not too many cities and towns throughout the Commonwealth can claim that. So well done by both past and present. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion? Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate you coming in and providing the explanation and the savings. Thank you. Mr. Manager, Rock Bridge?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'd ask the city engineer and a representative from Mass DOT to come up. As you all know, the repairs to the Rourke Bridge began on Sunday. The plans were changed. They were originally going to close the bridge completely for a certain period of time, but that has changed. It's not going to close completely. We took a very proactive approach. I also have the superintendent of police also to talk about the public safety. We took a proactive approach in announcing this closing to the public. We did press releases. We've had the lights, the signs up there so that everybody can know. We've also assigned police to the area to help out with the traffic flow. So if we could do a brief presentation of what's going on.
You just did my presentation.
Can you tell us how long it's going to be closed? That's what we all want to know.
Right. Really, all I'm here to do tonight is introduce Bill Bernard from Mass DOT. This is a state project. He's got all those types of details. Our role in all of this really was to help them disseminate the information to the residents as fast as we could. So Bill will answer all those questions.
All right, I'm Bill Bernard. I'm the Structures Maintenance Engineer for District 4 of Mass DOT. The project's going to last 4 weeks, so approximately October 30th, 31st is our completion.
30th, 31st, and then that's it?
Yes.
Now, we've been through this a few times, so I just want to make sure when people call and ask that we can say, you know, the 30th or the 31st.
I have the 31st on my schedule.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
sorry.
Anything else? I'm sure we have questions. So Council Malinazzo, and then Council Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You certainly have a tough job with this project, redoing the Rourke Bridge. My question has to do with timing. Why wasn't this work done when school was not in session? We now have the buses that are going back and forth over the Rourke Bridge, and we're going to obviously be doing some detouring of the buses for the schools and so forth. So I guess my question is why now and not in August, say?
Okay. The Rourke Bridge is inspected every 2 years. The inspection is actually in November. So the next inspection cycle it's a month from now. Typically what we would do is we would take that report, read it over, and figure out what work we need to do. So the last inspection was 2012. We did that. We went out in 2012. I don't know if you remember. We resurfaced about 75 panels, and we replaced a number of panels. What precipitated the work now is it was an email from Lisa. There was a complaint to the mayor's office, so the mayor reached out to us and said, you know, can you take a look at the bridge? We went out and we looked and we saw, oh, the panels need a lot of work. That was in July. But also, we looked and there was a lot of loose bolts and clips. It's the nature of that bridge, it's very light. There's a lot of vibration, things come loose all the time. So we focused on that first. We went in, we tightened up all the bolts, replaced clips. That took until about September. From there, we looked at the panels and we realized, oh boy, there's a lot of panels we got to do. We started looking at different products to try to reduce the closure times. Unfortunately, the fast ones, we couldn't get it down fast enough. We couldn't. The way you do it is you lay out the epoxy resin, you squeegee it out, then you broadcast stone over it. It was setting up so fast the stone wouldn't get into it. We looked at other products that were much longer cure times. So we settled on a product that we think will work. It's temperature dependent. So we could have maybe delayed this work, but we couldn't delay the work. We needed the temperatures, so that's how we arrived here.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Council. Council Belanger, then Council Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now, do you please elaborate on the lane direction here? And I commend the manager's administration for at least keeping a lane open, because it wasn't always going to be that case. That would have been a real mess out there for Pawtuckettville residents and beyond. So please elaborate a little bit on the lane directions as to what's going to go on there.
Okay. We chose to close the northbound lane first. It was arbitrary. We have to keep the lane closed. We're going to keep all the equipment out on the bridge at all times, and we're just going to keep moving forward. We had a meeting with the police and fire and city engineer, and we discussed, keeping that lane open, what direction to keep open. And we thought it was best to keep the lane open for rush hour. So southbound in the morning from 4:30 a.m. to noon, so southbound over to Drum Hill. And then at noon, we switch it so it's heading back north, so the rush hour traffic in the afternoon can get through.
Excellent, outstanding. That's the way to go. You're going with the tide, so to speak, during this
Right.
construction. So well thought out. Very good. It's exactly what I want to hear. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, if you and the chief could please take a look, as it took me quite some time to get down here today, because the traffic cannot go, say, essentially over Old Ferry Road down that particular area. Everything has to go down to Pawtucket Boulevard. It was backed up almost to Heritage Ice Cream today at about 4:30. So that means a lot of traffic is trying to go left to go up Mammoth Road. So could we please take a look at it, because that's only going to continue, and that's a real bottleneck.
It is, Mayor, and likewise, the traffic on the other side of the bridge, Middlesex Street, and more importantly, Pawtucket Street is backed up all the way from Pawtucket and School all the way up almost to Middlesex Street. So, and you're going to see that alternate depending on which way the traffic flow is. So, the other consideration for the police department is we adjusted our deployment plan so that the two cruisers that are principally on the Pawtucketville side of the river, we've mandated that those two units will not be pulled to other portions of the city. So they're going to stay in their home districts, absent an extreme emergency. They'll be over there all the time.
Okay.
So, and I know Deputy Chief McCabe's here. He can explain to you a similar situation for the fire department.
Yeah, Engine 10, which is the engine on Old Ferry Road, they are not crossing the river at all. We're keeping them in Pawtucketville no matter which way the traffic is running. And the companies from the Highlands are running out into Middlesex Village. Engine 10 is usually first due in Middlesex Village, but we don't want them going over there at all. So we've got Pawtucketville covered the whole time.
Appreciate that.
The other thing, Mayor, that we've done is we've contacted Tingsboro, Drake-It, and UMass Lowell police departments to provide support, and we will reciprocate if we need it in that outbound area of Pawtucketville. So,
Thank you, Chief. Council Rourke?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, a question for the chief. Are there going to be officers there directing traffic on both sides of the bridge at certain times of the day?
no, the current plan is to just have one detail officer there to block the road so that the lane that's coming in the opposite direction will not be allowed. There'll be no officer on the other side of the bridge, and there's no component from Mass DOT to provide officers at the other affected intersections to try and facilitate the traffic flow at this point.
Thank you.
For discussion on the report, Council Rourke?
For the gentleman from the DOT, do you have an opinion of the overall condition of the bridge as it is now?
I do. I brought a copy of the inspection report. Let me take a look. But overall, it's okay. It's, where is it here? Oops. All right, the three main elements are deck, superstructure, and substructure. Deck is rated 6. 6 is satisfactory. Superstructure is also 6, and substructure is 5. 5 is fair. Anything that's 4 and less is structurally deficient. So this bridge, it's in good shape.
So with those numbers that you just told us, I guess the question would be, what's the shelf life of that particular bridge or a bridge that has those type of ratings?
Well, this is the type of structure that we have to continually maintain, so we'll be in there every year or two to do something. If we continue doing that, it'll last.
And one last question, the cost of the September project and the project you're doing now, do you have a total number for those 2 projects?
The project now is about $265,000. And what was the question?
The one for
other?
September?
Last, well, up to, I'm sorry, I don't understand the
So
question.
you placed bolts and
Oh, that's include, no, that's above, how much did we spend? That was about $50,000, yeah.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Kennedy, and then Councilor Leahy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you. You said the substructure was a 5?
Yes.
Why isn't that a 6? Why is that a 5? What is the substructure, first of all, I guess, and then why is it a 5?
The substructure is from the water up. Specifically, I can take a look, see, 5.
I'm thinking it's the columns that hold up the bridge, or the...
Correct, that's correct.
Okay, and so why is that a 5?
Let me read. The lowest, all the substructures are broken up into sub-elements. There's, I don't know, 20 of them here. It looks like it's saying the pedestals. Let me read what it says. 6.2A. It's saying that the concrete pedestals and the water piers have large delaminations, so big pieces of concrete are falling off. Right, that's in the water.
It's great that the other 2 categories are 6s, but
right.
the category that's a 5 is holding up those other 2 things to me.
That's
right?
correct.
I mean, maybe I'm making it a little bit too simple, so it
Right.
really doesn't matter if they can be 7s, but if the 5, I mean,
Right.
you've only got 4, 5, and 6? You said
0 through 9. 0 is failed, 9 is perfect.
But 4 is deficient.
Yes.
Deficient to what extent? Would that mean you'd have to come right in and fix it right away if it was 4?
Not necessarily, no. Nope. Unfortunately, there's a lot of bridges that are rated 4 structurally deficient. We try to work on them when we can, or if they're in need, safety.
And so will the state be doing anything about the fact that the substructure is a 5? I mean, will there be repairs to that, or how will that be addressed, or will it be addressed at all? Or is 5 just acceptable?
Well, it's saying it's delaminations and spalls, so it's the concrete piers, they're huge. It's just the outer layer from the rebar out that's spalling off. So structurally, that does very little to hold up the bridge. I mean, over time, it will get worse. We'll have to address it at some point. Right now, I don't think it's on our highest priority at the moment.
So you'll let it go until the next inspection in 2 more years? You'll take another look at
Well,
it?
the next inspection's in a month, so we'll know better in a month what
Right,
it looks like.
and then after that, it's 2 years, right? Is that what you
Correct.
said? Yeah.
Correct.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Leahy.
I just had a quick question. We're keeping traffic going all day long on the bridge. The contractor, we're not going to get inundated with people's cars being sprayed with glue or damaged, stuff like that. I mean, that could be a real headache, people worrying about going over it, people coming
It can
to
be.
us. So
That's,
how are we going to contain that?
okay. That's the reason why we were going to close it at night. They were going to sandblast at night.
Right.
They didn't think they could contain it well enough. And another issue is when they sandblast, it brings the steel, shiny bright.
Oh, yeah.
We can't allow it to rust at all. So at night, there's more moisture at night. So they were afraid it was going to rust up and they'd have to sandblast in a day. So they went ahead and they found a way to contain all the sandblasting, to, so we don't hit any cars. The resin, when we put that out, they're using squeegees. They're going to stay within the lane, the area that they've sandblasted. So I don't foresee any cars, getting damaged that way.
So even if we were gonna close the bridge, we couldn't at this point at night to sandblast anyways? Most likely.
I don't think it would be productive. I think
Right,
there'd be
okay.
double the work.
All right,
Yeah.
and there's no way we can close the bridge during the day, so. Okay.
Right, and the resin epoxy, there has to be 50 degrees and rising to put it out, so there might be days, and it can't be wet, so there'll be rain days, and there'll be days when it's cold, you won't see them working there on those days.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions, Council Samaras?
Thank you, Mayor Elliott. I guess I have to ask this question. I mean, this bridge was built as a temporary bridge, and to continue along with Councilor Kennedy's question, the base of the bridge, I mean, what does that mean when you build a temporary bridge? I mean, is the base as strong? Was there some timeline ever set on that? That's the word temporary means to me, not for the longest, not forever.
Right. Most of the structure that you see, the truss-like structure, that's the temporary part. The piers that are in the water, those are designed like any other bridge. Those are made to last.
Okay.
And given the ice in the river, those are pretty heavy duty.
I mean, that was a concern. That's why I raised the question. I mean, they'll say, like the bridges that go over the Cape Cod Canal are old or beyond their time, but they're functional. Would you describe this, is that the way this bridge is? It's functional because of its repair, even though it's outdated? Does that make sense?
Yeah, we have a term, functionally obsolete.
Yes.
It might be a bridge that's perfectly safe, but it's just not up to today's standards.
Okay.
I believe this bridge is functionally obsolete because it's
Term I
weight
was looking for.
posted, so.
Okay.
But it is safe.
That's all I want. Thank you.
Council Kennedy?
Just one more question, it's really just a clarification. You said a little earlier that you expected the project to be complete by the 31st
Yes.
of October, but then you said that if there were rainy days or days where the temperature didn't get above 50, the work would be done on those days. So if we have a lot of those days in October or the latter part of October, then the completion date could be extended into November. Is that right? Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. It could happen. One thing we have in our favor is the way we're paying our contractors by the square yard, so it behooves him to work fast. A lot of the contracts I deal with, we pay by the hour, so sometimes they tend to drag their feet. But this one here, we're in a good position. They're going to work hard. And we've told them, we want you out of there October 31st, so we're going to push them hard.
Okay, all right, thanks.
You're welcome.
As someone that crosses that river every day, multiple times, thank you for pushing them hard, and stay on them. Further discussion on this particular response to the motion? Seeing none, moving on. Any other requests for information from other motions? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to accept the communications from the city manager and placed on file by Council Milanazzo, second by Council Samaras. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. We thank you for your time and coming to our meeting. Moving on to the next item on the agenda is communication, is a reappointment of Richard Lockhart to the Planning Board.
Move approval.
Move approval by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Martin. Councilor Leahy?
Suggestion, can we take all the communications at once, or if it's okay?
Some of them have roll calls, Councilor.
Okay, all right.
We'll get through them. Motion to approve by Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Martin. Roll call.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next item is a communication, is a reappointment of F. Christopher Zachara to the Conservation Commission. No confirmation needed. Entertain a motion to accept and place on file.
So moved.
By Counsel Kennedy, seconded by Counsel Belanger. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries as well. Next is a communication to appoint Quinn Lawrence to the Green Building Commission. Motion to accept the communication and place on file by Counsel Samaras, seconded by Counsel Rourke. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries as well. Moving on to item 5.5, we have communication. We have a city manager request for out-of-state travel for one Lowell police officer. Move to approve by Councilor Milonazo, seconded by Councilor Mercia. Roll call.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, motion carries. Moving on to item number 6, we have votes from the city manager. We have a vote to transfer $65,000 to the cemetery from general improvements. Move to approve by Council Milonazo, seconded by Council Rourke.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Kennedy.
could we just get a quick explanation of why we need to do this late in the year? I mean,
Mr. Manager, or Mr. Baldwin?
some of this is for overtime, I think, right?
Some of it is for overtime, the other portion is for removing hazardous trees, engineering, and for improving Section 35 in the West Lawn Cemetery. It's also, the Cemetery Commission has some jurisdiction over this fund, and there was a vote by the commission that's attached to approve this, which is typically why we bring it forth to the council.
Okay. What, professional services, what is that, tree removals?
Yes, so the tree removal and the engineering services would fall under the professional services category.
Okay. And why is there overtime?
It's,
Well, sometimes if they have burials on a Saturday or something like that, if you need a employee there, there'll be overtime that's paid for that.
Okay. There's quite a bit of money, right, for overtime?
And they've been doing a lot of work. Okay.
there's currently only one full-time employee in the cemetery division, their budget, so they often have to utilize overtime for other departments. They borrow employees from the streets division and have to utilize their own overtime account to pay the overtime for the other employees.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Thank you, Council. Council Leahy?
Thank you. I just want to suggest, maybe not to hold up this use of money, but I believe we're going to bring in a motion next week to have a discussion on overtime and salaries because of, you know, in light of what's happening in the city, I think that we should be looking at all extra money, all overtime, all services maybe that could be put on hold while we address public safety issues. And I think we should have a good discussion on, you know, where we're putting that money and energy in light of what's happening in the city. So I think we're going to file a motion next week. And so maybe, you know, I don't want to hold this up, but I think we should look at that in the future.
Okay, further discussion on the transfer? Roll call.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas. The next vote is a vote to accept a gift from Trinity EMS. The gift is a defibrillator being provided to the city. Discussion? Move to approve by Counsel Kennedy.
Move to approve and request that the city manager send a letter of gratitude to to Trinity.
Moved to approve by Counsel Kennedy and send a letter of gratitude as well. Second by Counsel Belanger.
Excuse me.
Counsel Mercy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a tremendous gift from Trinity EMS, but I'm concerned as to why it's going to be in the health department as compared to being on the road with the fire engine or a. I mean, I don't mind that it's there, but I mean, it's a stationary place. I mean, are people going to come in off the street and go into the health department and need this service, or are we going to take it? I don't know. Go ahead.
No, actually, it's because we're by ordinance, the supervising of the ambulance contract that it was sent to us. It should have gone directly to the manager. It's actually for City Hall. John Shemley recently was here and asked where was the AED for City Hall. The answer is we don't have one, given the volume of people coming into this building. The purpose of accepting this defibrillator will be to place it at City Hall. The question is where, probably centrally near the mayor's office, but that's up to the manager, obviously, because the blood pressure probably goes higher as you go up the floor. But anyway.
Put it right in here, why don't we?
Yeah,
But
right
anyway,
in this
it's for City
chamber.
Hall,
Right
it's
in
not
this
for the health
chamber.
department.
Okay, Mr. Manager.
So it comes through the health department to
Right
be
here.
stationed here, and I'll find an appropriate spot outside of the mayor's office.
And we better train someone that can be able to use it. You know what I'm saying?
Actually, Sue LeMay, who's an EMT, has volunteered to do the CPR training and arrange for City Hall employees at this building appropriately to be trained in the appropriate CPR training that would go with the defibrillator.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Move to approve by Counsel Samaras, seconded by Counsel O'Rourke. Roll call.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, motion carries. Moving on to the next vote. This is a vote to authorize the city manager to accept a retaining wall and release an easement at Beacon Street. Entertain a motion to waive the full reading by Counsel Kennedy, seconded by Counsel Belanger. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries. Second reading by title. Commonwealth of Massachusetts, City of Lowell, in City Council is a vote authorizing the city manager to accept retaining wall at 135 Beacon Street and release a retaining wall to Robert P. Gordon, his successors, and/or signs as owner of the property located at 135 Beacon Street, Lowell, recorded at North District Registry of Deeds, Book 28-179, page 291. What is the wish of the body? Move to approve by Counsel Leahy, second by Counsel Kennedy. On the motion? Roll call.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
9 yeas.
And yeas, move on to the next item of the agenda. We're under reports. We have subcommittees. We have a public safety subcommittee on September 30th. We also have an education partnerships subcommittee this evening. Councilor Rourke, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On Tuesday, September 30th, the Lowell Public Safety Subcommittee met to discuss 2 agenda items. In attendance was myself, committee members Councilor Belanger and Mercia. Also in attendance was Councilor Milonazo, Councilor Samaras, and City Manager Kevin Murphy. From the Lowell Police Department, Superintendent William Taylor, Deputy Deborah Friedel, and Executive Assistant Marianne Bellotta. From the Fire Department was Chief Edward Pitta and Lieutenant David Keene. The first item was an update on the Matrix study, which was a motion brought forward by Councilor Kennedy. While the Police Department will roll out a full completion in November, an update was given. The department is over halfway complete with their policies and procedures. Currently, the Police Department has 104 different policies in place, with 50 completed and another 30 in the final draft. Captain Kennedy has been assigned full-time to complete the updated Matrix study. The goal of the Police Department is to become certified through the National Police Accreditation Commission. With completion of this project, the feeling of Superintendent Taylor is that Lowell will indeed become certified. One policy of note was brought by Councilor Mercia. She asked the superintendent what, if any, changes were made with regards to prisoner checks. Chief Taylor stated that currently prisoners are checked on every 30 minutes, and those prisoners with a history or that present a homicidal and/or suicidal tendency are subject to checks at least every 15 minutes, if not more. Also, Deputy Friedel stated that detention attendants in the cell block have with them video surveillance that enable them to see all prisoners at all times. The on-duty officer in charge working on that particular shift also has this video. The superintendent then gave an update on recent crime in the city. He informed the subcommittee that dedicated personnel have been placed into high-impact teams. These teams are very proactive and are very aggressive in their police work. Also, the police department has been issuing numerous press releases, conducting multiple neighborhood corner meetings, and are encouraging all citizens to please take part in the city's See Something, Say Something program. Councilor Belanger stated the importance of Lowell citizens to call the police immediately if anything at all is out of place or isn't within the norm of the neighborhood. This type of citizen involvement assisted the police in solving 2 recent housebreaks in Lowell. Resident and Citizens Council President Anne Marie Page also spoke on the importance of this form of neighborhood outreach and participation. The second agenda item of the meeting related to the fire department and its staffing. Chief Pitter stated that currently the fire department is at 201 total members. Chief Pitter then stated that currently the department is in a much better position with regards to company closings under this current administration than under the past. Councilor Mercier presented a motion that requests the fire chief update the manager weekly and/or monthly of any company closings going forward. The motion passed unanimously. Lieutenant Keen mentioned of possible grants the fire department may be eligible for in the future and brought up the possibility of the fire department being able to hire a grant writer for such available funds that the fire department may qualify for. I responded to Lieutenant Keen that the idea would be explored at the next council meeting. With that, the meeting was adjourned. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Rourke. Further discussion on the subcommittee report? Motion to approve the report as a report of progress and placed on file by Councilor Mercier, seconded by Councilor Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed, motion carries. Next subcommittee report of the evening, Councilor Samaras.
Thank you, Mayor Elliott. Tonight, the council on school partnerships, college partnerships, met, and we met with Chancellor Meehan. Present were my committee of Councilor Mercier and Councilor Rourke. Also present were Councilor Belanger, Councilor Leahy, Councilor Martin, Councilor Milanazzo, and Mayor Elliott, along with the city manager. I think it was a terrific night to have the chancellor make his presentation. He had many members of his staff present. He spoke of the transformation of the university. He talked about spending over $37 million into the academic world, hiring over 200 new staff members, creating innovative new programs to meet the needs of the students. In fact, the goal for the university, he talked about the goal for the university is by the year 2018 to have 20,000 students, or thereabouts between 20 and 22,000 students attending the university. He talked about the major increases that have taken place in the endowments since 2007, when it was $34 million. It's now presently at $78 million. And by 2018, he expects it to be $100 million. And he raised why he talked about that and its importance, because it meant scholarships to many of the students, including many students from Lowell. He talked about his university being tied for the second fastest rising national university and receiving top rankings for investment. In other words, based on your tuition, getting the best bang for your dollar. And I think that's something that we all want for our students, our children. He talked about the strength and the collaboration with the city. He spoke about University Crossing, that new $100 million building that's by the new bridge, connecting the two campuses and its importance to the community. He talked about developing programs to work and create good neighborhood relations. Talked about a program of Coffee with the Cop, which meant having university police, National Park Police, and Lowell Police working together just to meet with people in the neighborhoods. Talked about working with the city manager and the council to create a true college town atmosphere. and the benefits to the city. What he did end with, in one of his major parts of his discussion, was the idea of economic development and research and how they tie well together. And he talked about new companies coming into Lowell because of the excellent record of research that the university has, and how he's looking to increase the funding and grants that the University of Lowell does receive in the area of research. He also talked about the addition of the Songus building, additions to the Songus building that will, I think, be valued over $37 million with a new practice rink. But it's his hope that not only will he be able to have more sports, Division I sports programs located there, including basketball, but that center can become a true convention center, a world-class convention center. And with this, he hopes to see the addition of a new hotel located in central Lowell. So when you listen to what he had to say, it was very positive. But it's not only was it what he had to say very positive, it's true. The university is becoming the anchor that any success that we have in this city, I think we can credit the university and also Middlesex Community College as helping us to attain that success. I believe if anybody didn't see that video, that 1 hour exchange that we had at 5:30, they should go to ltc.org to watch it. I believe it's worth it for our citizens to see what is going on between the city and the university. If any of my co-partners want to say anything, Councilor Mercier or Councilor Kennedy, did I leave anything out?
Thank you, Councilor Smaris. Very well done recapping that meeting. It was a very good meeting, as you mentioned. For a discussion on the report, motion by Councilor Milonazo, second by Councilor Leahy to accept the report of progress and place on file. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Next report of the evening is a report from the Councilor Belanger.
I just wanted to brief the council real quick. The Economic Development Task Force had a meeting on Friday, October the 3rd, and I just want to let you know very briefly that there is a motion later this evening stemming from that about a merchant association, which I'll elaborate at that point. But we also made a recommendation to the Historic Board that they review the restoration and creation of art murals in the downtown. We had a lengthy discussion on the issue, and we feel strongly that murals and advertisements in the downtown are part of our history. They enhance the downtown aesthetically and would be an asset to development in the future. So I will keep the council briefed on their response, but we think it's a good thing for the downtown. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councilor. Further reports? Moving on to the next report is a report from the wire inspector regarding National Grid on the request to install an underground electric conduit at the corner of Pawtucket and Broadway Street. Entertain a motion to adopt the report and adopt the recommendation and accompany report by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Mercia. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries. Moving on to the next section of the agenda, we have petitions, we have claims. There are 2 claims for property damage. Motion to refer to the Law Department for a report and recommendation by Councilor Leahy, seconded by Councilor Milonazo. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Still under petitions, we have a miscellaneous petition. Louis Nieves requests 1 handicap parking spot at 190 High Street. Motion to refer to the traffic engineer by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Rourke. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That motion, that petition that we're on now and the next one, if we could amend both of them and make them both a 60-day trial.
Motion to amend by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Milonazo. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed, that motion carries. On the motion to refer to the traffic engineer as amended by Councilor Rourke, seconded by Councilor Samaras. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed, that motion carries as well. Item 8.3, we have another miscellaneous petition. Shrun Che requests one handicap sign at 85 Barney Street. Motion by Councilor Mercia to amend to make a 60-day trial, seconded by Councilor Milonazo. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries. Motion to refer to the traffic engineer as amended by Councilor Belanger, seconded by Councilor Kennedy. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries as well. One more petition. We have National Grid. We have a request for a gas main on Appleton Street. Entertain a motion to refer this to a public hearing on October 21st by Councilor Leahy, seconded by Councilor Martin. All those in favor signify, and that's going to be at 7 p.m. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries as well. Moving on to the next item of the evening, agenda item of the evening, City Council motions. First motion of the evening by Councilor Mercia. Request city manager place Barbara Street on the street paving list. Second by Councilor Milonazo. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager, I did have an occasion to go down there because I heard some talk about how it was like a patchwork area. And yes, truly it is. It seems like over the years, different utility companies came and dug up a portion of street here and there and there and there, and it's all patched up and it's all bouncy, and it's, if we could put it on the list for some time, first we'd have to know if it was an accepted street, which I hope it is, and if it isn't, then I'd like to move it to be an accepted street so that in the future we could use Chapter 90 money to repave it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries. Next motion of the evening by Councilor Rourke. Request city manager explore possibility of creating a grant writing position in the Lowell Fire Department. Seconded by Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This motion basically speaks for itself. We, as stated before the Public Safety Subcommittee meeting, there is hopeful money out there for our fire department. So whether it's creating a position just for this or in addition to something that somebody in the city hall already has going, exploration of the possibility of a grant writer could be beneficial for both the department and for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries. Next up, motion of the evening by Councilor Belanger and Councilor Samaras. Request city manager work with John Power, principal of Farley White Incorporated, to explore possibility of illuminating smokestacks throughout the city. No second necessary. Who's going first? Councilor Belanger?
I think we skipped 9.3, but we can always go back to it.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. Request city manager report to the city council regarding parking in the city by Councilor Rourke and Councilor Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, as we all know, the parking in the downtown is always an ongoing dialogue. And, you know, I think some of us are enlightened by the Jeff Speck last Thursday revisited the city and kind of touched on it as well, and gave us some pointers, so to speak. And, you know, it's still it's not so much a problem. I don't like to hear that word because it's not. Parking in the downtown is a perception, okay? There is plenty of parking downtown. And as I've stated many times, that if we can accommodate the Lowell Folk Festival, 150 some odd visitors in the course of a weekend, we can most certainly accommodate an average Friday or Saturday night in the downtown. Now, it's how we advertise it and get the word out to consumers and city residents and beyond. And so what I've done is researched, along with Councilor Rourke, what other cities and towns are doing similar to Lowell, and it's a problem everywhere, not just a concern that all Lowell has, but it's going on everywhere in the Commonwealth, quite frankly. So what I'd like to do is sit down with the city manager and the parking director, Jim Troop, and compare our scenario, compare how it compares to other cities and towns throughout the Commonwealth. And as Jeff Speck mentioned, that you need to prioritize your parking by pricing it accordingly, where premium parking on the street is a little bit of a premium price, where your more obscure locations should be free in some cases. The garages should be, again, on an average weekend, Friday and Saturday night, there's 2 or 3 empty levels on 2 or 3 different garages. But we need to figure out a way to get consumers into those garages. They're clean, they're safe, and this is a walkable downtown, to say the least. Walkable more than most. So I'd like to come up with a strategy that encourages people to come downtown, not to be deterred that they're going to ride around in circles all night and not be able to find a spot. So, again, it's going to take some serious dialogue here, but I know we've got the administration, the planning department, and the council to achieve this. But it's time that we really look at this and, either raise the cost, which some cities and towns like Salem, Mass. And Haverhill, Mass. Are raising the on-street parking, even enforcing later hours, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and discounting garages. In some cases, free weekends and discounted nights and first hour free. And then from there, the merchants may have to take over as well, that the city cannot do everything. They should be looking into validating an hour or so as well, and that includes everybody. But I just like to come up with a system that encourages people to come downtown. We have a very successful parking enterprise now that works for the city, it makes money, and that's great. Well, now let's come up with something that works for businesses, okay? So I think it can be done. We have plenty of parking, and this is what we need, the message we need to relay to consumers out there, that they can come downtown, park no more than 50 yards from their destination, and they can be, their car is parked, it's not going to get towed, it's in a safe environment, and it's how we perceive it to the consumers is the bottom line here. So I think it's a great motion and one that could have some real good payoff down the road if we can get this done right. So I would appreciate unanimous support from my colleagues on this motion. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Council. Council Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thinking behind filing this motion on my part was now that with the city's two-way parking, two-way traffic in place, hopefully now we can look at the parking situation. Currently, Lowell operates parking enforcement from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. Hopefully, as Council Belanger has stated, the goal for the parking department would be to come up with a more user-friendly, business-friendly approach. I myself have been working downtown for over a year now, with many weekends involved, and also spoken with city business owners and residents most affected by the current ordinance that's in place. What I have noticed is a lack of parking spots on Saturdays and Sundays, especially early in the morning. My guess is that people park in those spots Friday afternoon and most times leave their vehicles there until Monday morning. A parking ordinance that maybe we might call for longer enforcement, perhaps 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday, should help increase the amount of visitors coming to Lowell's downtown. Other urban cities, as the council had stated, such as Somerville, Nashville, Lawrence, and Haverhill, have adopted similar parking ordinances. Another idea, hopefully, the parking department can take into account is maybe possibly an all-out ban on parking in Lowell's downtown from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. This will allow for the DPW to both clean the area in the summer and fall and make it much easier for the removal of snow in the winter months. I remember a call from the city council just a few months ago to make sure city sidewalks and parking spaces were cleared of snow, especially during the holiday season where pedestrian traffic does increase. The old way of allowing sun to melt the snow, shouldn't be the way we treat our business owners, residents, and visitors that come to the city. So, looking into city garages, discounts as a way to attract people, is all ideas that I hope that can be looked at. With regards to maybe a citywide enforcement, looking into better ways to control traffic, especially with regards to areas around busy bridges, could also be an improvement. So hopefully with the improvement in our parking ordinance, Lowell can become more up-to-date with the times in a way that increases the amount of people using the businesses in the city and also for allowing the better transition of people coming in and out of Lowell. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Leahy?
Thank you. I like this motion. I think it's a good time to take a look at our parking. So a lot of good suggestions as far as even the times, you know. Maybe we change the time that we ticket from 9 to 5, 9 to 6. A lot of the complaints I get are early morning complaints. You run into the coffee shop, you're coming out of the church, mass, and you got a ticket on your car at 8:15. So this is a good motion. We could have a good discussion on it. And I like the fact that even during the winter months, you know, maybe last year we had a lot of problems with parking spots being filled with snow. You know, 5 or 6 spots, that's unacceptable. So maybe this would be a good way to help us clear out the downtown. A lot of good can come from this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Did you get a ticket for real when you were going to church?
Well, I know, you know, people over at the Immaculate or even down at the Shrine, you know, you go to 7:30 Mass and you come out and you got a ticket at 8:15, so it's tough.
That
I
gives
got a
new meaning
ticket
to no
once
good
at
deed goes
8:05.
undone. But we should look into that, Mr. Manager, if you wish to be able to.
Well, when we have the
Church.
discussion, I think it's a good time to look at different hours.
Yes.
Council Milonazo? No, all set. Council Marcia?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. For discussion on that motion? All those in favor, Council Belanger?
Mr. Mayor, if I could, one quick point to Councilor Mercier's point. No, we don't ticket on Saturday and Sundays, but the kiosks do state enforcement on Saturdays until 6 p.m., but it's there, but we do not. And that's part of the problem, as Councilor Rourke alluded to. Residents are parking on the street. I mean, I can go on Market Street on a Saturday morning, go up and down and name the individuals who own the cars, and they stay there. I mean, we represent the residents downtown as well. But this is a problem too. Residents sit and park and they stay, and it's an issue. So I just wanted to confirm that. Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion, sir?
Can I just add one other thing? So the motion reads, have the city manager report to the council. Did you want to send this to a subcommittee so we can give him some suggestions? We don't, he's got enough to think about, so we should have the discussion and then, so my suggestion would be if you want to send it to a subcommittee for.
Mr. Manager, what's your intent? You could put together a report, bring that to the council, and then do you want to refer it to the subcommittee, or do you want to just refer the item right now to the subcommittee? Because it's a general discussion on parking in the city.
What I actually did is I got Jeff Speck's presentation on a thumb drive, and I've given it to Jim Troop, our parking clerk, to review it and come back to me with some suggestions. So maybe we could make a presentation at the subcommittee meeting and then get suggestions to you on how to fine-tune our suggestions to the city council.
Is that all right, councils? Once we get the report, it'll come to us, and then we'll send it over to the subcommittee. Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye, and the opposed, the motion carries. Next item of the evening is a motion by Council Belanger and Council Samaras. Request city manager work with John Power, principal of Farley White, Inc., to explore possibility of illuminating smokestacks throughout the city. No second necessary. Council Samaras, Council Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If all the city council did attend last Thursday's Jeff Speck, as he revisited Lowell, and publicly, I would like to thank the Lowell plan for spending quite a lot of money for a nationally renowned urban planner to come to the city, not only once, but for the second time to do a follow-up. And I want to thank Jim Cook and his organization for that. And it's what we do with it from there is what counts. And, you know, we just had a parking discussion. Now here we are, Council Samaras and I co-sponsored a motion that he showed a slide-slow presentation of the Wanna-Lancet smokestack when it's illuminated in the winter. And we all know how aesthetically pleasing that is and how much of a favorite it is in the city. And then Mr. Farley went on to elaborate that when they did not do it for a year or two, and he received several emails and phone calls in favor of, please do that again. And so we all know it's a favorite from the residents of Lowell. So, but he then in turn showed a rendition of all the smokestacks in the city illuminated. And it was unbelievable. You could hear literally the audience in appreciation of just seeing that site, how awesome it would be and what an attraction the city would be if we could achieve something like this. And I believe we can. So Councilor Samaras and I thought it would be a good idea to make a motion, have the city manager meet with Mr. Foley, I believe, of Foley and White, and excuse me, come up with a plan where he can communicate with the other smokestack owners, property owners, and get this achieved, because I think it would make Lowell a destination around the holiday season. I really do, and have a lot of payback for the city. So, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilor Samaras.
Thank you, Mayor Elliott. As Council Belanger stated, the entire city council was present at the Lowell Plan Breakfast, where many good ideas were spoken. And what we're looking at is what can we do to help the downtown business people? What can we do in this city just to make it a true destination city? John Powers of Foley White Interest spoke of the light at Wanalancet Mill, and he did tell us how in one bad year he didn't put it up, and the complaints that he had about it not being up. And he talked about how basically the Wanalancet Mills complex was branded by that smokestack. And we've talked about branding in the city of Lowell. Why would you want to come to the city of Lowell? And he then showed, I believe it was about 6 chimneys that had the lights and how good it would look. But I would also ask the city manager if he could talk to John Powers. And by the way, I spoke with him just prior to the meeting, and to ask basically to really ask his permission to use his name in this. And he'd be more than pleased to work with the city manager and anybody else that he chose to work on this project. He thinks it's viable. But I would also add to this, there are many people who have spoken in the past about lighting up the Aiken Street Bridge and possibly the Bridge Street Bridge. And if you think about it, if we could also get a number of business people to light up their buildings in the downtown, this could become truly a city of lights. We talk about the City of Lights Parade. We talk about it being a city of lights. And I think when you look at in the summer how active we are with the Folk Festival and other festivals, but if we had something like this for people to bring their children into the city, it would just, I think, have a very positive economic force in the downtown. So to the city manager, with many of the things that we ask you to do, and there are many, if you could possibly speak with John Powers and maybe establish a committee to at least look into the feasibility of doing this and what support the city council could give you for doing this. We think it's a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Next motion of the evening by Councilor Belanger. Request Mayor reestablish Substance Abuse Subcommittee.
Thank you, Mr.
Councilor
Mayor.
Belanger. Seconded by Councilor Mercia. Councilor Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we know, 2 weeks ago, we had a nice discussion with former mayor, former councilor Bud Caulfield, that came in and elaborated on his thoughts on the issues in the city. And he says that, at one time there was a substance abuse subcommittee that was very effective. And the idea was outreach to the young kids in schools and beyond, to preventative, because this is a serious problem in every city and town throughout the Commonwealth and across the nation. It's one that has no boundaries. It's just not restricted to cities. And it stems right along with Representative Tom Golden's great work, where he has landed a grant for programs such as this of $170,000. So that's outstanding, and he has been on the front lines on that issue for a long time. And it's one that needs a lot of work nonetheless, but I feel strongly that Councilor Caulfield's comments should be taken up. And I'd be glad to sit with kids at any time. It's something I personally enjoy, but it's preventative measure I think we need to take on this issue here, because it is a problem in the city. A lot of these drug and gang problems are drug-related, quite frankly, a lot of these gang issues. And outreach is definitely part of the solution. So I just think it's a worthy cause and one that we need to take upon ourselves to get accomplished. So thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed, that motion Councilor Leahy?
Sorry. When you establish, if you're going to reestablish the subcommittee, I would just suggest that if you could have your office take a look at some of the motions that former school committee person Bob Gignac filed. And we actually adopted a motion that I put in with him. He did a lot of work with State Representative Golden on this. So there's, just so we're not overlapping and we have some programs in progress that might be helpful, we should just take a look at that and see what we're doing and could help the subcommittee.
Was that your interest, letter of intent, that you want to be on the subcommittee?
Sure, but, you know, there's a lot going on, so, but it's very important. And,
I agree.
You know,
I
the
agree.
issue is we've talked about this in the schools
Why
for years.
don't we talk later exactly what,
Sure.
when those motions would have been filed, so we can check with the clerk and get them for
Okay.
the subcommittee.
Yep,
Thank you,
thank you.
Councilor. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries. If anyone else is interested in serving that subcommittee, if you could just let me know, or Celine know, that'd be great. We'll put that subcommittee in order right away. Next item of the evening, 9.6 by Council Belanger. Next motion, per request of the Downtown Economic Development Task Force, request city manager work with Planning and Development Department to establish a merchant association for downtown businesses. Second by Council Rourke. Council Belanger?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I explained earlier, most of the Economic Development Task Force did attend the breakfast as well, and thought it was a great idea that Jeff Speck presented. You know, we do have organizations like the Chamber of Commerce and the Convention and Business Bureau, which are very beneficial and very helpful. There's no two ways about it. But they do cost money. They are costly, and it's in some cases difficult for businesses to partake. So what I'd like to do is the manager work with Planning and Development and set up a City of Lowell Merchant Association. And I'll give you a great example. They sort of already taken this upon themselves, the manager and the administration there, where some Lowell residents may have received a postcard here for 20% off on most destinations. And it costed the merchants nothing to participate in. They just had to respond on an email and say, yes, I will participate, and they were automatically entered. This went out, and personally, they just went out last week, and I had 2 customers come in to redeem this on Sunday afternoon alone. So this is what we can achieve by taking things upon ourselves to help businesses, and hopefully it's other businesses are benefiting as well. So this is just one example of what stuff we can be doing. I mean, in some cases, other events may cost businesses a small amount of money, but there'll be no annual fee, and it'll be helpful to businesses. There's no two ways about it. And as Jeff Speck spoke, they're very popular and beneficial, and most cities and towns are doing them. He frankly couldn't believe we didn't have one in place at this time. So, so at the request of the task force, which I represent on this council, they thought it was a good idea, and I'd like to ask my colleagues for the highest considerations on this motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council. Further discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Next motion of the evening has been withdrawn. Moving on to 9.8. Next motion by Council Leahy. Request city manager have inspectional services department report on how many properties have been closed in the last 6 months due to illegal activities. Second by Council Martin. Council Leahy?
Thank you. I went, a couple of weeks ago, I went to the meeting at UMass Lowell, Coffee with Cops, and I sat there and I listened to a woman's story. her family, they basically had to sell their house. They're living in a neighborhood where they lived across the street from a troubled apartment house, I guess. And basically, what the short of it is, you know, she had to sell her house and move away from the city. So what I'd like to do is find out how quickly we're able to get into these trouble spots with the help of the police and take action as far as inspectional services is concerned, and find out, you know, how we can be more efficient. Obviously, you know, these renters come in, they're trouble in the neighborhood, but the sad thing is, here's a lady who's afraid, she made an investment, and she has to pack up and move out of the city, and that's wrong. I don't know the specifics, so I'm not gonna point fingers, but the bottom line is it's wrong that she had to move, and then we couldn't get these troubled tenants out. So that's the intent of the motion. And like I said, you know, any resources that we can put into inspectional services to help the police, to help the neighborhoods, so this stuff doesn't continue.
Thank you, Counselor. Further discussion on that motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Move on to the next motion of the evening by Counselor Leahy. Request city manager have property department produce a list of street signage that needs replacement. Second by Counselor Kennedy. Counselor Leahy?
This motion has to do with, somebody lately was talking a lot about curb appeal. It was a great idea. So this would be a motion where, you know, let's go around, if anybody in inspectional, police, any department in the city, if you see a sign you can't read, just report it. Let's get a list. I know these things cost money, but let's see what we can do. Street signs, old crosswalk signs, old yield signs, anything. Anything we can do to clean up the neighborhoods again is only gonna help benefit, and maybe, you know, all these small things will help improve the neighborhoods, which will engage people, which again will help deter crime. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Next motion of the evening by Council Leahy. Request city manager report to the council regarding meeting with Comcast concerning rates in the city. Second by Council Kennedy. Council Leahy?
Thank you. If we could just get an update, there was a motion put in, if we can set up some sort of meeting with Comcast. Thank you.
All those in favor of the further discussion on that motion? Council Samaras, I'm sorry.
Also, we talked about Fios or Verizon being involved, if there's any possible development in that area. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Next motion by myself and Council Rourke has essentially been answered, so that one will be withdrawn. Council Leahy, if you can just take the podium for next few motions.
Nine point 12, motion by Mayor Elliott, request city council discuss placing city logo on street signs. Seconded by Council Belanger. Mayor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. It's late. I won't belabor the issue. I know other communities, quite a few other communities, they may have a different color sign. And in addition to that sign, street sign, they have their logo on it. And I think it's a nice touch. I don't know what the cost is, if it's that significant, but if we could take a look at it and, you know, phase it in over time, maybe we'd like to put, maybe we could have another street sign color. I know Medford and other communities, I mean, we have, you know, Red Raiders, we have a nice maroon, so just something to look at. I don't know if there's a significant cost differential, but if you can just let us, you know, get us a report on what that would be, I think it'd be a nice touch. So that's the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye. All those opposed? Next motion tonight, 9.14. 9.13, Mayor Elliott requests city manager provide report on cost to conduct feasibility study for police station. Seconded by Councilor Kennedy. Mayor Elliott.
Again, the motion speaks for itself. I know that a study was done many, many years ago. I don't know what happened to it or how in-depth it was. I know it was when Commissioner or Superintendent Davis was here. Nobody asked, I didn't speak to any police officers about this, I didn't speak to any command staff. This is just my experience going over to the police station frequently in the last short while. And the building is inadequate, it's in disrepair. You know, we have a city of 107,000 people. I know money is tight. On the other hand, I also know that the city of Lynn, they have a new police station. I know Manchester, New Hampshire has a new police station. And it's my understanding, again, just understanding, that funding is available, grant funding is available for police stations. I haven't done more investigating than that, but it's certainly worth exploring. But before we get there, I know we have to take a look at that building. So that's the essence of the motion. I think it makes some sense to take a look into, you know, what it's going to cost to take that first step forward. Again, knowing money, I know money is very, very tight. I know this is not going to happen immediately, but again, if you take a walk through that police station, it's very deficient, and you know, we just need to move forward and try to take a look at it. So that's the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I think it's a good motion. One I'm going to support. When, you know, this calendar year, you know, the high school has been dominating the topic of discussion, but in actuality, that police station is in far worse condition than the high school. And that's probably the intent of this motion that the mayor is trying to get across. And in one sense, I agree with him. We've almost lost track of what's going on over there. I mean, that lockup, that cell block, is considered one of the worst in the Commonwealth. And it should be looked at. There's no two ways about it. I don't know how we're going to accomplish all this, but nonetheless, it's something that needs to be looked at sooner rather than later. But I don't know if it's a problem. I'd like to amend the motion if it's maker of the motion sees it clear that to see the possibility of including the lockup in the new judicial center. That's, you know, I believe only a few years away in the making, from which would alleviate a lot of that stress. I mean, that is a dangerous setup we got over there. And we all know the liability that we incur from it with what happened earlier in this year. So I'd like that to be looked at. If we're going to have a new facility, $200 million facility be built in the next few years, let's see if we can incorporate some of that over there as well, maybe the lockup. I think it's something worth looking into. I don't have all the answers, but I'd like to amend the motion to include looking into having the lockup located at the new judicial center. Just, at least let's look at it. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't amend that amendment. What I would like to include, Mr. Manager, is that we had the Chancellor here this evening talking about one of the best, if not the best, working relationships between the Lowell Police Department and UMass Lowell. It is my understanding that UMass Lowell arrests, but they actually place them in custody if necessary here in our police department. So knowing that, sharing resources, when, you know, at some point in time when we get to the point where we need additional lockup as a result of the additional arrests we have. So maybe that's also a good opportunity to explore with the Chancellor that, you know, moving forward on this new, or when we get to the point we need to make improvements, that we could probably work with him and share some of the costs.
Thank you. Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. I'm very skeptical about this. If we need improvements in the lockup, then I think we should make them. But given the public safety needs we have in the city, I kind of view the police department as our salespeople. And in any company, you wouldn't give nice office space to your salespeople. You don't want them to be inside. You want them to be out on the street. And I think that should be our philosophy here. I think it is our philosophy. And doesn't mean we need to put them in deficient buildings, but I think, you know, we don't necessarily have a deficient building. If we can make improvements, we should do that. I think we should be looking at other models and not necessarily a centralized police location. People in the neighborhood seem to like the precincts. So I think that should be looked at. I think we have deficient fire stations, and that those perhaps can be public safety centers where there's a police precinct and a fire precinct. I mean, the police station was built in the 70s. We have fire stations that go back 70, 80, 90 years in some cases. So, you know, I think, you know, I'll vote for the motion to support the cost estimate, but I think, you know, heading down the road to build a new police station in the downtown is maybe not where the policing model is heading. And, you know, the mayor mentioned discussions going back to Chief Davis, and I remember having this conversation with him, that I thought this was a bad idea then, and I still think it is. So, you know, I just, you know, before everybody gets too excited, I think we need to be practical about what the competing priorities are and what message that sends when we have, you know, a magnificent new facility that people can be comfortable on the inside when we have a lot of work to do on the outside. So I think that has been our focus. I think it should be our focus. And I think any sort of discussion about a facility needs more thought as to about how it gets placed in the overall scheme of community policing, smart policing, and whether we really need a big facility in the downtown.
Thank you for your comments. Any further discussion? Mayor Elliott?
Hence the reason for a feasibility study. Nobody's getting excited about it. What we do know, and I would urge any member of the city council to take a walk over to the police department, and if they don't think that is deficient, that police officers, no one's talking about a you know, majestic place for police officers. I don't think, you know, people that know me, that's certainly not my style. However, let's just, you know, take a tour. Speak to the police officers. Give them a place to get a locker. Give them a place to at least have sufficient evidence where they can store the evidence. These are the things. We're not talking about giving luxurious offices. If anyone's getting excited, and unfortunately, I'm glad I put the language this way. It's a cost on feasibility, whatever that may be, whether it's a model that Council Martin's talking about, whether it's a central location or not. Nothing's going to be spent tomorrow. It's a feasibility study, so I guess moving, you know, lesson learned, be very careful how you word your motions because they'll be twisted, and that's what this is being done. No one's jumping to conclusions. What I'm saying is we need to think about planning for public safety. In order to run a good police department, an effective and efficient police department, you got to make sure you have a sufficient evidence locker so it can't be tampered with, or it needs to be stored properly. You need to be able to repair your vehicles, or you need to be able to process information and process prisoners. And those are items that we know are clearly deficient. So that's all it's about. It's not about putting any officers in grand, you know, the Taj Mahal offices or this huge structure. How about just a basic police department that's not in disrepair, dilapidated, and probably not a place where people want to go to work. That's all.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion as amended, say aye. All opposed, motion passes. 9.14, motion by Mayor Elliott, request Youth Services Subcommittee meet with the Lowell Community Health Center Teen Block regarding activities for city's youth. Seconded by Councilor Samaras. Mayor Elliott.
This motion speaks for itself. It was, I got contacted by individual young lady from the Lowell Community Health Center, teen block. She would like to meet with the youth subcommittee, and that's the ascension. That's it. So I figured I'd put the motion forward, so we go through this proper channels and proper process in order to have the chairman of the subcommittee call. They're very enthusiastic about meeting with this new council to discuss exactly what's taken place on Team Block, and that's the ending. That's the essence of the motion, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye. All those opposed, say motion passes. 9:15, last motion of the night by Mayor Elliott. Request City Council discuss setting up Blue Ribbon Committee to undertake the reuse of the Smith Baker Center, seconded by Councilor Milanazzo.
It is late. We're right up against the 10 o'clock time frame. So again, I will be brief. Blue Ribbon Committee, Task Force, Commission. I think they're all sometimes pretty synonymous. I selected Blue Ribbon because typically they're, are individuals at the head of organizations that have a particular mission or, investigating how to and in this case, investigate how we can reuse that building. I did dust off the report that we got when the former Mayor Caulfield, initiated a task force in 2008. And prior to that, believe it or not, a feasibility study was conducted in 2003. So it's a jewel in the downtown. It's the longer it sits there, the more repairs. I understand some of the options are staggering. However, it's in the historic Lowell Historic Park District. It's in the City Hall Historical District. It's held by the Lowell Cultural Resources Inventory. So, Mass State, it's the Mass State Building Code that is partially preserved. Not to belabor the issue, I think we need to take a look at it. There are some parties throughout the community. I've spoke to a number of individuals, both private and nonprofit, that want to see something happen. Reuses are performing arts with offices, community center. So in order to sort of move this project and see if we can, as we do so well, just the other day we celebrated, wind development moving into the boot mills, and that was one project that took a long time to do, many partners, many finance pieces, many hurdles. I think this is something where we collectively can put our resources in this community together. It's right in the downtown. Both reports say it's can be a vital asset to Lowell's creative economy, and I happen to think so. So I know it's expensive, if you will, but the longer it sits there. On the other hand, let me just conclude with part of this report that was conducted by the task force includes many funding sources that could be used to to develop and improve that. So I'll stop there. I'm sure there'll be more discussion, but that's at the essence of the motion. Try to kickstart this and see how we can preserve that gem across the street.
Thank you. All those, Councilor Samaras?
Thank you. No, I think this is a good motion. I'd like to support this motion. In the past, I had talked about also doing a fundraiser or looking for people to help raise funds to repair that center. But I think this motion sets in place where we set up what is the purpose, what would we like to do with that. I do believe there are monies out there to help repair this building. But I think some of the issues that I've heard within the community are, once you get it repaired, can you sustain whatever program you put in? So I would just like to add to that with the city manager, besides looking at the Blue Ribbon Committee, make sure that the University of Lowell is included in it, and Middlesex Community College, and possibly people from the Whistler House, or one of those programs, to talk about what its potential can be. I think the money's there, but I think we also have the resources down the road to sustain it. So I think the mayor is correct in this. We've talked about this, or it's been talked about for many years. I think its time has come. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Ayes have it. Mayor Elliott?
Mr. Mayor,
Council Kennedy?
unless there's some urgency that the city solicitor can tell us about, I'd like to move that we postpone 10-1, the executive session, until the next meeting.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Kennedy, seconded by Councilor Mercia. Mr. Manager, before we vote on this,
There's absolutely no urgency, just wanted to give you an update, and that can happen at the next meeting.
any objection to the motion? Do you need a roll call on that? No. No? No. No roll call. All those in favor of delaying that motion until the next meeting, or delaying that item to the next meeting, signify by saying aye. And the opposed, that motion carries.
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn by Councilor Kennedy, second by Councilor Belanger. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries. This meeting stands adjourned.